Roger. Yeah. Yeah. Be unfortunate. I love saying Roger. Yeah, they weren't distinct. Yeah. Yeah, I can't really think of any. Huh. That's true. Maybe there's a lot. Mm.
Good morning, Samoa, and welcome back to Doctor Who Season 1, Episode 4, where once again, 24 hours late, I am joined by my brother Caden.
Hello there.
Great, I didn't adjust your sound levels at all, but you have exactly the same setup you did last time. Uh-oh, and now I've opened my email app on accident. Go away. It's gonna... There we go. Well, before we talk about 73 yards today, we have some homework from last time. And maybe at the end of this stream, there is a time cap on this stream, but it's like 2.5 hours. Maybe this stream will actually get to my growing pile of notes with stuff we were going to talk about at the end of like 2 streams ago. But we've got my wife's opinions on Boom, because remember, they were sick. They didn't watch Boom. Now, I'll give their reasons. They're busy. They're watching Has Been. They don't want to be here today. They don't want to show their face, which is understandable, honestly. But they gave Caden, you were actually my notes are off. You're a plus. You're the plus between Alex's score and your score on my notes. You gave Boom a very specific 9.3.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
I gave Boom a conditional 10, right? On the condition that if there's a future episode that's like a better 10, I'd bump that down, right? I like the condition that I could move it. So we had an average of 9.65. The highest, just for a refresher, Church was 7.3. Space Babies was 5.8341. Mostly, you were 5, I was 5, Alex was a 7. Devil's Cord was just 8. Alex gave Boom 6.9 out of 10. Oh, and I had to talk them up a bit, and I think they only did it because it was a funny number.
Is Alex
they
coming
did a
from
6.
here?
Okay, wait. So of course, this was my reaction. It's not as bad as you think, right? Their main criticisms. First off, Alex just generally with sci-fi, they like the campier episodes. Like Devil Cord is much more their thing. I mean, Church was a 9, Devil's Cord was an 8.5, Space Babies was a 7. So yes, Space Babies is 0.1 better than Boom, according to Alex. So I wasn't expecting like a 9 or 10. I was kind of like, maybe like I'd be okay if they said 7. Or like 7.5 maybe. So I knew this wouldn't be like the best episode for Alex. But their main criticism, so aside from that personal thing, is we both agreed that the ending of Boom kind of undermined a lot of the middle, right? They had the kind of like, it's okay that the dad died, like in the war, and they stopped this specific war, but didn't really address kind of the toll it had. There was like, the war's over, everything's okay now, right? And Alex felt, with how, like, that was definitely addressing relevant this episode literally addresses future things. But, like, it addresses very specific things happening, like Ukraine, in Israel. I mean, build up of things. That's more this episode. But anyway, that undermining, they felt it was really important to kind of nail those messages, which they thought they were doing in the middle of the episode. But particularly the whole like meaning of life is to die kind of message at the end, which they actually hated like more than me for once. They felt that's really bad when you're handling like, you know, that episode of Doctor Who is not going to end the war in Ukraine, but that fumbling really hurt it because of how important the messaging now. Like if this episode was like 10 years ago, it'd probably be higher for them. I'm like, you know what? That's fair. You still probably could have said that with a 7.5. Like, I think they were low. Their other big complaint, which I think this is unfair, they actually said if this episode and Boom were switched, Boom would be ranked higher. Because Boom was the episode they kind of consciously realized Ruby has, again, ignoring this episode, basically no development. She's kind of just the perfect Doctor Who companion, and there's not really much more beyond that. And so that really detracted from her, and Alex felt her fake death would have been more impactful if we'd actually like had a connection with her, or like a stronger connection than just like, I like her. This episode fixed that for Alex, but yeah, and I'm like, that's fair, but I mean a 6. It's because it's 69. Like that's basically the reason I was able to get them up that high. But this brings Boom. I'll tell you what, my conditional 10 is not budging anymore. But that brings Boom down from a 9.65 to an 8.7. Still the highest ranking episode.
Yeah, okay.
But not as comfortably high.
Yeah.
You know, not as. But you know, I think Alex is a voice of bringing it down probably a little closer where it is, because you know, I've starved for great Doctor Who. You just loved it. Alex was maybe a little more of a, but just they overcorrected too much. So my wife, I know this is why they didn't want to show up today. The real reason, I'm sure. I also have their ranking for this episode, but we'll get to that later. Mm-hmm. So Caden, unless you want to like say any derogatory comments about my wife, I think. Hello, Joseph Tyler. I'm glad I moved my notes so that I could expose the chat. Actually, hang on. I can pop this out. I forgot I could do this. I'm going to move the chat where it's not blocking my notes. So you, Caden, what I was going to say, do you want to make any opening statements about 73 yards? And I'll actually
I liked
reveal
it.
The screen.
I liked it. I think it made me feel dumb and smart at the same time.
Okay.
And I need more. More Doctor Who to see where this goes.
You'd messaged me. This is the first time I knew anything before the stream, because you messaged me to say you couldn't come next week.
Yeah.
And you said your rating was a strong 9 out of 10. Also a bit of a conditional on what happened. And I was like, okay, now I definitely want you. Because I was with... I basically was with the entire rest of the fan base. So again, I watch these episodes like an hour after they come out because I have to wait for Alex to get home. Mm-hmm. You know, our relationship is healing since the Boom incident. I think we're gonna make it through. They do like the Sixth Doctor's coat, so you know it's not all.
That's
bad.
good, yeah. It's not all
off. They made a pie, you know. But where was I going with this? I do this a lot.
My rating.
What the heck was I saying? Oh yeah. But so by the time when I finished the episode, it's been like an hour after anyone could have finished it. And I like to go on the Reddit and kind of see what people were saying. And the general vibe was exactly what I got, where usually, you know, there's talk like, oh man, I like this. I didn't like this. What was happening? Love this part. Literally everyone was like, I don't really know like what happened. And there's one comment I agreed with so much that was like, I don't think I've ever watched an episode of Doctor Who and then had literally no idea whatsoever how, like, literally the absence of an opinion, just out of like, what, like, I like, we were collectively like, I'm glad I watched it. This was good. But like, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this one. I'm still not sure what my 1 to 10 is. Like, I don't know.
I think I felt the same way because the rest of my message for all of those out there was a strong 9 out of 10 with a chance to move down if or when they explain it, and I don't like the answer.
So I'll get back to
Because I
you
think
on that.
the reason I love it is just I'm left wanting more in the good way because I don't know what happened.
So let's start off with, first off, this is a very rare and special kind of sci-fi. I'm sure other genres get it, but there's other Heaven Sent, the like highly often touted as the greatest episode of Doctor Who, kind of has this. A lot of the great Star Trek episodes have this. What's the one? Benny, isn't it? Benny, what's it? It's not in the. It's not in the film. What the heck is it called? Hang on, no. This is more important than Doctor Who right now. What the heck is the one? Star Trek Deep Under the Far Beyond the Stars. There we go. Where like. It's basically it's the sort of curveball. I think we all know because we saw this, where it's like. Basically the whole time you're watching it, and like you don't know what's going on, but it's so kind of like weird and interesting. It's a very special not knowing what's going on, though. That it's like you're enjoying it and you're just kind of going with the ride. It's not that you can't follow it. You're just like what's.
Mm-hmm.
It was that. It was the very special kind of episode. However, I think Joseph here in the comments is kind of leading to a big point. I'm pretty sure it's not a 9. It's a hard one as well because it's almost a disposable or like a single use episode. Because I did rewatch this one to do my notes, but it's like it's never going to be the same as the first time, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Even Heaven Sent, I like to say Heaven Sent is 2 episodes of Doctor Who in one that are literally the exact same. There's the version of Heaven Sent that you see the first time, and then the version of Heaven Sent you see every subsequent time when you know what's happening. Although that manages to make 2 amazing 10 out of 10s. Joseph said, I was able to figure out about halfway in the show what was going to happen in the episode. I wouldn't go that far, but...
I as well had that experience, though, which is why I felt smart and dumb at the same time.
I didn't like the start so much, and I didn't really like the end, and those are going to bring it down. We'll talk more, but that middle bit is really kind of the special place. And I just think this to me is the episode where something I don't think Doctor Who's done before really is it's the type of storytelling where there's like a mystery, we don't know what's going on, but I don't believe in terms of what is happening, specifically what, I don't really think there's much of anything deeper than what we're actually seeing. Like, it's a mystery that doesn't actually have a concrete answer, which isn't inherently bad. I mean, Midnight is a fantastic episode. It's very similar in that there's a creature, but we learn nothing about it. Like, we don't know what it is in the end. It was just a scary thing. But I think the difference here is the only thing this episode felt the need to explain was the most obvious aspect, that the old woman was Ruby from the future. And it's not obvious necessarily that, like, you can see it from a mile away. It's more, especially as the episode goes on, it's not going to be like, hello, I'm Margaret the Slovene. You've never met me before, but I'm the big bad, and I did this because this, and this. Like, there's, I think you know that not everything is going to be answered. But it's almost by process of elimination. I almost mentioned even at the pub, I think when the first person, or when one of the first people ran away, it's like, it makes sense if it was older Ruby, because that'd be like kind of scary if you see someone and they're like, that's you, but older. Like, I'd freak out, you know? I'd freak out a bit of that, but it's almost to the point of we can skip ahead. Oh shoot! So spoilers. I forgot we do a next time on. Like, it's not just that it's Ruby from the future. It's Ruby from the future, but when she teleports, she's now in like a black cloak, I guess just because, totally different clothes. Her gestures aren't anything. I saw someone mention that like it was the kind of last motion she was doing at the hospital, but it's really not. You can kind of stretch some of them, but it's just not.
Yeah.
She in the analogy I want to use to pivot is a franchise I try to avoid bringing up, but Harry Potter, right? My wife every now and then will think of something about the Harry Potter universe, like, oh, why did so and so like do this thing? And they always get really annoyed with me because whatever the question is, I always go magic, and they get really annoyed. But the thing is, they don't get annoyed because I'm not engaging the question or I'm dismissing them. They get annoyed, and we've talked about this, because they know that's the correct answer, and they know that the answer is literally no deeper than the word magic, right?
Yeah.
Why do people run away when they encounter old Ruby? Magic. Why does movie make the gestures? Magic. Why did the loop happen in the first place? Magic. And that's kind of what I don't like. I think you needed a little more. Like if her gestures actually were stuff she was doing at the end of her life, or important things, like if it was maybe holding up the phone when she deposed that prime minister, or I don't know, something on one of her dates maybe, and like when she was turning on the lights at the hospital, then there's something. It doesn't seem to be sign language. No one on the Reddit has like it's been tossed around. Is this sign language? But it doesn't appear to be. It seems meaningless. And so it's like if we even just got to see Ruby slowly become more the old woman, other than just literally becoming old, maybe if we noticed she had a ring and we saw her get married, or we saw her with an old lady as the ring, which we probably did, or even just like if her hospital gown was black and like you could slowly see it. And so to me, that's really like Midnight. We don't learn anything about the creature, but we learn through observing how the creature works. We learn what the creature is doing. It starts repeating everything people are saying. Then it catches up and says with them, and then it's ahead of them. It says what the person's saying before they do. And you can get the rules and see the progression, but this is like Midnight without that progression. It's as if the creature kind of did random things and you never learn why or for what reason. And the episode sort of builds to the reveal, but it's like, oh, well, yeah. I mean, there's literally one character in this story who it could be. It's Ruby.
Yeah, it's a lot of it is I'm hoping that they do loop back around, or something in Ruby's story explains why this takes place, which is when the episode, for me, would get better or substantially worse.
I'm slowly brought around to the idea that aspects of this are Ruby's nebulous special powers she almost certainly has.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, I noticed a lot more on my second watch through that she makes it snow in cases. Like, I thought it was a bit weird. She mentioned, I used to make it snow. I'm like, did you know that?
Yeah, when she was dying.
But on the hike home, there, she makes it snow, which I'll get back to. She makes it snow when, like, her mom abandons her. So, like, she could pick it up, and it never snowed again. She might make the connections.
Yeah.
But it's like that ending kind of underwhelms it. And I'll talk more about the beginning when we do our scene by scene. So it's a fantastic, it's one of those very special, I mean, in like 1,600 episodes of Star Trek and Doctor Who, sorry, I've seen like maybe 3, you know? It's a very special middle, but it's below a lot of those others because of the endings and in the bits around the middle. But there's a lot of gray.
Yeah.
There's a lot of gray in that middle. And so the question is, what's that on a 1 to 10? Especially as it's non-repeatable. It was fine on a second watch through. I wasn't bored, but you know, it wasn't the first time.
Yeah, the mystery really feeds the enjoyability of the episode. And the almost simplicity of it.
It's almost not the mystery that makes it. It's just like so much is happening that you don't expect, and you don't expect the show to do.
Yeah.
and you don't know what's happening next. Like I didn't like I was interested in the answers to the mystery, but I also knew that it was always going to be somewhat underwhelming because that's not really the point of the episode. Like I'll say the moment I'll tell you when the episode got good for me. Oh wow, it's later than I thought. Really? it was with Kate, because we can get into that.
Way back.
I mean, I think it was good, but when it really got good was here, because this felt earlier than it was, but you've set up what's going on, like you've kind of established, like at this point you have, in a classic Doctor Who story, you've established what's going on. We understand the problem. This woman is like, the Doctor's gone. This woman is always the same distance from Ruby, and she makes everyone, including her mother, run away. We've established the threat. We've established the situation. We've done a lot of emotional stuff. And then Kate shows up, and if you're a recurring viewer especially, it's like, okay, I'm like, Unit's here. Now it's time to solve the problem. And like, I'm interested, because then that's the point where we'll now learn. Like, we will start to unravel, what are these gestures? What is the woman? What is all of this? And then when Kate turns around and looks at Ruby, it's like, oh, no, that's not what we're doing. It's like, now everyone is gone, and now we're just gonna go ahead and skip a few decades. And it's like, when does this end? Where does it go? Are we with old Ruby now? Like, when the Doctor comes back? Like, what's...
I really liked the... when Unit as well... I don't know, I think I had a different response when Unit as well.
Well, this is why I really wanted you, because I've seen Kate before. Alex didn't trust Kate. I'm like, no, Alex, she's been in the show for like 15 years or something. It's like, you can trust Kate. But I wanted to know what, like, someone... I kind of wish I hadn't showed you. You've seen 1/3 Doctor story, so you're aware of Unit.
Yeah.
But I wanted to kind of get your response from this.
Yeah, I really liked it, because I think as well, I was under the same impression. I was like, okay, they got this in the bag. Things are going to be fixed now, kind of.
Because narratively, that's what you do.
And to me, it made it a lot more interesting, because it was like, well, now what the heck is going to happen? I didn't love, and I don't generally love in stories when they do the substantial time jumps. But I was able to kind of get past that on this one. I don't think they did it too bad. But it did feel like they pulled the rug out from underneath me, but in a little bit of a clever way. Like, I was fine with it.
I think it
but
would...
it didn't lead to the answer being given in the traditional manner. But I don't know. It was done in such a way that I was okay with it.
I expected it would translate to someone who'd never met Unit or Kate, but as it's a what's the equivalent? It's like in I don't know, in like a Marvel film, if like Iron Man or like Nick Fury had showed up to the new hero halfway through the movie and then just like turned on them and abandoned them. You're like, whoa,
yeah,
that's not what happens. That's the part where you like call Iron Man and like, you know, you get all that.
I'm gonna have to hold for a second. Gage is calling me, and Gage never calls me.
We're busy. He wants get out of there. He had his chance.
I'll be right back.
He's not part of these streams. He's not calling me. But now we know if it's a big deal, we'll forever judge Gage because we know he called Caden first. That's our other brother. What do we got? Do I have anything to talk about without Caden? I honestly don't know. I had more about this unit stuff. I think I'll just prep. I'll prep the scene by scene. Because I'll say, right, I didn't want to tell Caden this. But I've got a lot of like fan theories, and even from Russell T Davies himself explaining what happens in this episode. But I want to go through it like we don't know, and then kind of reveal. It's like, okay, actually, how about this? Here's your answers, and I think that'll be interesting because there's some interesting stuff. There's a lot of interesting little details I caught my second watch through. We're going to get into hypothetical wars between Russia and the European Union. You're going to look forward to that. Hypothetical wars between Russia and the European Union that are actually much less hypothetical than you might think.
Good time to come back.
Yeah, no. We'll see. Is he going to call me now? That's the question.
No, it was Dad was too lazy to pick up his own phone, so he called me with Gage's. I thought someone died or something.
Are you streaming with Dad's internet?
Nah, I'm not at Dad's.
Oh, good. I was like, what? How are you? You're not gonna have a connection. I thought we'll probably get back to that Kate bit. Which, by the way, you probably didn't catch. I wasn't sure if you'd catch this, because she does say her name. But Kate is the daughter of the Brigadier, whom you saw in, what did you watch? Spearhead? Not Spearhead, the other one. Terror of the Autons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you remember the title?
I would have grabbed it.
There we go.
I had it in my head somewhere.
So the start of the episode, there's a few interesting things that kind of establish the loop that are very easy to miss. And in fact, we're probably going to talk about the start and the end of the loop. It both the start and the end of the episode, so buckle in. First, no way you would have caught it, but the Doctor opens by mentioning that, like, it's the war between the land and the sea, which I think is a cheeky in-joke that they didn't realize wouldn't be as much of an in-joke, because that is the working title, at least, God, I hope it's working, because it's an awful title, for one of the Doctor Who spin-offs that they're developing, because they want to make it like Marvel. We'll see how that goes. So you'll actually have to stick with me a lot longer, I've realized. That means I'll watch along. I'll watch a lot. I actually need to get a David thumbnail for Alex. That reminded me. In fact, I'm going to add that to the notes. 10 thumbnail from Alex. Because they were supposed to be doing that as this series went on, but now we're like we're halfway through.
Wow, really?
Yeah, no, this was episode 4, and there's 8 episodes.
Huh.
Yep. But I was like, I think they just snuck that in because Stephen Moffat snuck a lot of the episode titles into interviews, and so Russell D. Davis just found that funny. I was like, ooh. So this whole episode, I was like, Sea Devils? Like, are we? Well, that's the other great thing is if you happen to know that, I'm pretty sure that spinoff is a unit spinoff. So when Kate shows up, you're like, oh, this is the setup for the unit. It kind of primes the mega fans to go, okay, this is your setup episode for that series. And so when Kate shows up and then just F's off in the middle of the episode, it's even more of a rug pull. It was interesting. I was surprised they introduced her. Like, that was the first time we saw her, though. Because, like my wife saw her and was like, I don't trust this woman. It's like, no, she's basically like the companion. You can trust her, Alex. But they never did.
They'll learn.
So, the first detail is when they show up, and the Doctor brings up Roger, which was a little convenient, but I'll let it slide. He says he was the most dangerous prime minister in history. He led the world to the brink of nuclear war. That was the exact line. The second time, right? Because one of my complaints initially was like, well, did any of that actually matter? Because Ruby didn't step on the fairy circle. She didn't have the woman following her. She couldn't have prevented Roger's rise to power. So her preventing the nuclear launch didn't do anything, right? Why would it do anything? Magic. But see, but it's just lazy is like if it's a crux of your story. But the second time, right, the exact line is he was the most dangerous prime minister in history, and that's the end. There isn't a mention of nuclear Armageddon.
Okay.
But So yeah, a lot of people have been online realizing that, no, she did actually prevent it. And I think that might be the purpose. Like, that line is there to demonstrate it. However, that quote isn't like... that. In the full thing, that's not the end of the second. The speech, the Doctor says more. It's like, wait a minute, what year are you from? But the reason he's cut off the second time is because Ruby sees the woman and goes, who's that? So to me, like, I think you needed to start the next line to really confirm that. Because is it that he never did the nuclear Armageddon thing? Or that the Doctor was just cut off right before he mentioned it, because he was cut off right before he mentioned it. And so again, kind of the problem of not establishing your thing is you could just say magic to make the plot work, or you could say it's more likely that she doesn't change the future in the quote-unquote real timeline, because there's even a reference that was an alternate timeline. We'll get to it. But so she didn't really do anything, which is like the more logical and reasonable through line, and it means you don't have to rely on magic, which is just lazy. So I if that was what they were going for, I wish they'd done a little stronger.
Yeah.
Other fun note is Ruby the first time says she's been to Wales 2 times, but at the end she says she's been to Wales 3 times.
3, yeah.
And they kind of address this. You just probably don't remember she said 2 at the beginning.
Ah, yeah, I caught that one.
Yeah. It's one I think most people would catch.
At the beginning, I think I only have 2 notes of thought.
Yeah, go on.
One was throughout the episode, none of it was too crazy, but there were a number of moments with the cinematography that I really enjoyed, especially the first reveal of the lady and the set design being so simple, but something so eerie about this lady standing 73 yards away with this tree over her.
Yeah.
And consistently, I really liked how they did that, so that was pretty cool.
I generally agree with the entire series, not even this episode. But it did take me a long time to realize that she was actually staying exactly the same distance from Ruby. And I think the first time she appears, they're supposed to establish it, because she sees the woman, looks down, walks forward, looks up, and says, "Very funny." And even on my second watch through, I didn't catch that she moved back. I was like, she's under the tree, and she's still under the tree. I kind of thought, did she move? Like, was she closer to under the tree? But it was a little subtle, I think, because there were just no details on the hill. There was the tree, but she moves from under the tree to still under the tree, just a little farther away. And so
a lot of the shots, too, just where old Ruby's, like, in the background and stuff and framed up to let her be there. Yeah, I just enjoyed that they kept the continuity of that throughout the episode, which was really nice.
I mean, everything, the lighting, the wardrobes, the color choicing, it's been a very well-produced series of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, was also true, like, during Chibnall. They just didn't have a great VFX budget. Like, I just complimented that era, you know? That was, like, one of the good things. Is every department other than writing was, like, top tier, you know?
The second thing that of note on the beginning episode that I was confused about, or not even just confused, I don't think there's an answer to this, but they come across didn't the Doctor confirm it as a fairy circle?
Yeah, and my wife was very proud to recognize it as such.
They come across it for Mad Jack, but in the timeline where they're at, did they just travel to Wales in the present day?
So this was my next point.
Why would they?
Well, I mean, okay, are you complaining that the Doctor landed in modern-day UK? Because I've got some bad news for you, Kaden.
Well, because how would the circle for someone who doesn't exist yet be there? Or
you're saying the circle is for the Prime Minister.
Isn't it? Because it's got the thing that says Mad Jack on it.
No, I think that was a little weird. So, I told the chat this when you were away. I think I can give an explanation that actually supports one of the theories I like. But I was saving for the end. I've got some fan theories. I've got some stuff people have noticed, and I got a real special treat for you. A very special theory from a very special guest. He's sitting right here in my no, he's not. But the chat knows who he is. But so can we put a pin in that?
We can put a pin in this.
Yeah. Because I want to get our opinions before I give you anyone else, you know?
Yeah.
And even I'm talking about, like, my first impressions. I'm ignoring all those theories. But did they land in modern-day Wales? They're modern-day Wales, like exactly Ruby's time. Because this was interesting, because, you know, she sees her mom, and...
Yeah.
Like, so it's clearly her time. It's clearly after Space Babies. So... No, Space Babies was, like, Christmas. You know... For Ruby locally. But when she walks home, and I didn't even clock this till the second one, she makes it snow. And nobody comments on this. Even like, look at Susan Twist here, is like fully decked up in winter. They judge Ruby for going out in that weather, like not dressed for winter. But she is in Wales and quite clearly at sea level. I'm not an expert on Welsh climate, but I do know that snow in England is rather rare. I mean, it's almost a joke because, you know, they do the Christmas specials. But every time they have to like have some convoluted method for it to quote unquote snow because it doesn't snow. And like, you know, you saw Church on Ruby Road. There was no snow. But no one comments on that this is weird. But especially when you consider the last time we heard for Ruby, it's like June or July. I think it's July. So snow in Wales in July would be pretty freaking unusual, right?
Yeah.
But Ruby frequently mentions how she hasn't known the Doctor long. She never gives like a time frame. And to be fair, 6 months, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's not too long. But I almost wonder, is this actually supposed to be very early in their adventures? Because it would make sense to snow in like January. It wouldn't be that weird. You know, when it's still winter for them. Because I wasn't really on board that these episodes are out of order because they've been so linear and like the time's never gone backwards. It skipped forward a lot, but it's never gone backwards. And this might just be an overlooked thing because especially July is the end of the series. They've done this before where I think they want modern day to be when like the final episode ends. Like they did this with the 11th Doctor for a season where like there were cracks that were like some explosion had caused cracks in time, and you learn like kind of early in the season that the date of the explosion is when like the final episode of the season aired, you know. So I think that's what they're doing. But this was either a really weird detail or because like she it's frequently like I haven't really known him long. It hasn't been long at all. But I don't know, 6 months is a while. Like
to me, I'm sticking with linear until they spit in my face.
They'd really have to spit in the face, but I'd be like, this was the hint. Because I mean,
yeah,
if we've got half of them basically linear, but I also feel if this was like, you know, Adventure 3, surely Ruby would be a little more different. Like I don't know. Like I'm not convinced. Like she knows to contact Unit. There's a line where Kate's like, "Thanks for reaching out."
Yeah.
And sure, if I didn't have the Doctor, my mom had abandoned me, and there's this weird like supernatural woman following me, I'd probably Google like alien investigators. And nowadays, there's a massive like Avengers tower that says Unit on the side in the middle of London. Like you'd probably be able to figure it out. But I found that really odd is like a thing to miss as well. They like make it snow, but then have people comment like, "Damn climate change" or something. I don't know. Like it's July. It's not supposed to snow. Or she's landed like before July, so it is before the modern day for her. But I guess Ruby never shows up. Well, the Doctor doesn't exist, so with none of the God. See, that's a. We just we hit a big tangle wall, and I think it's time to move on. It's very rare I hit a time travel brick wall, and I'm like, that's gonna take me a few minutes right there.
Yeah, the disappearing Doctor part's of course interesting, but I've got that doesn't go anywhere. We don't know anything. I don't know what happened there.
That was one of the other things. Is the Doctor just disappeared because magic?
Maybe they'll explain it. You know, maybe they'll wrap back around.
I don't think there's any more. I think this is it. This is a one. It would have been fun if the next episode was also an adventure in Wales, but like it's the one they were supposed to go on.
I would like that.
But I know it's in like oldie times. I think it looks baroque.
It's weird to me that there's something that is maybe powerful enough in a sense that the Doctor's just gone.
Yeah, I mean, like, not everything needed to be explained. I'm perfectly all right being like, yeah, the magic took the Doctor away. But there's not enough rules to glap on. You get into the Harry Potter problem of the answer's magic, you know? and you
Yeah.
needed just a little more.
My
Again, you
copium.
don't explain any of what was going on. Even if you see the woman Ruby become the old woman more overtly or slowly, then that would almost be enough for me.
My copium is that they will explain it. That's what I'll tell myself until the season ends.
Well, I'll put a little question mark next to your 9 out of 10. Joseph Tyler, nice to meet you. It's always good to see, people in the chat, but new people as well. You're leading this episode, I guess. Do you want to talk about anything in like the pub scene before we go to my notes?
I don't think I have any specific things about it other than I liked it. I thought it was a funny story beat. And it did raise a lot. The old lady I really liked the old lady. I was kind of sold on her when she started just moving around.
The one in the the Ruby.
Yeah, Ruby.
Yeah, okay.
That had me. But then I really got interested when the guy said, "I'll go talk to her," and then the guy ran away. And I just liked what this story. I liked it was fun. It was narratively. It told us what we needed to know about what was going on without telling us anything.
See, I'm glad.
I liked the scene.
I'm glad we finally have differing opinions on on these. The pub scene is like kind of one of the biggest reason I didn't really like the start of this episode. So of course they're pranking her. We'll get more to that.
Yeah.
But not knowing it, I was kind of like ready for a bad episode of Doctor Who. There's a lot of little things. Oh, I see. There's a lot of little things that I'll get into in my notes. But overall, this kind of building towards, it's like you have this modern day, like it's pay for your phone. That's fairly new, you know, to the point where it'd be so widespread, especially. We see the phones and stuff, they're new. But you have this whole village of people who just like totally accept all of this magic stuff to the point where they're like completely unfazed by this woman. And it's like this season was advertised as leaning more into fantasy in those elements. I honestly, until this episode, don't think I've seen it. There's nothing that feels particularly out of the ordinary for Doctor Who. Like the gods are a very soft sci-fi, but they're still, you know, like they're not God. They're beings from outside the universe. They still have like the fantasy coat. Whereas this is the first, like, no, it's just magic. But yeah. I was like, I'm not finding that interesting. Maybe it was the lack of the rules. And it was building and building more and more satirical. To the point, I actually laughed at the line, "He drank in this pub." Like, I genuinely gave a good laugh at that. Because I don't know, it's a 10 out of 10. And, like, you realize shortly after, because that's the peak of the parody, that they're making fun of Ruby. And I'm like, this is a 10 out of 10. I'm just gonna scare this person because, like, he drank at this very pub. It's, like, it's contrived. It's not at all motivation for, like, the ghost to come here. It's but like when you don't know that it's actually like when you think it's a serious attempt to do a spooky witch story, it's a bad spooky witch story. It's parody.
I think we had a similar experience with it because I didn't like it when they first like said it, and then they kept leaning into it, and it was fun, and I enjoyed the energy, and then especially with the reveal of they're totally just pulling her leg, I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, to me, I think you do need it to be entertaining that first time around. I was just like, is this
the
really
second
what
time?
I'm
I think
gonna
it would lose it.
I mean, it's better because I'm not sitting there going, is this really what I'm about to watch? Like, you know, a bad witch horror film? Because it doesn't give me faith, you know, that like these mysteries will be answered. And so, but you know, we're not really into that special, like, I don't know what's going on feeling yet. We just have more of a standard mystery. But the main thing is before that, we just have a lot of weird things. Like, this lady's a massive dick about pay for your phone. Because she's like, she looks at me like, are you crazy? Like, do you assume we're a backwards backwater? You can't pay with your phone? Which I have no sign signifying you can do when I hide my pay with your phone thing under the counter. Presumably specifically so that I can be a bitch whenever anyone asks if I can pay with my phone. Which isn't even that ubiquitous anyway. if I went to a store in downtown if I saw like a store in downtown Spokane, like I don't know, like a random bar, I might be like, oh look, you can pay with your phone, you know? Like
It did this
Yeah.
part of the scene did raise my first confusion about timeline, because when Ruby asked to pay with your phone and they were like, pay with your phone, I was like, oh, they're just in a different time. And then they do pull it out, and I was like, whoa, what?
Because the joke would work better if not 5 seconds later we hadn't seen the like sort of punky looking guy on a modern smartphone. Because I was confused, but it's like, wait, but I saw a smartphone.
Yeah,
Like,
I was definitely thrown off.
Yeah, well, in a bad way though, because I'm like, she's not from the past, because that like didn't that guy have a very modern smartphone? Like it's thin, you know. I mean, then again, okay, my smartphone has a military grade casing that also has this really hard Papillon case that goes on the back, so it totally covers the camera. It's an OtterBox, fantastic. All right, not sponsored, but like genuinely, I've had over the course of since like 2016, maybe farther, I had my phone until like last year in an OtterBox, and the only damage it ever got was in like the week where the dog had eaten the case and I had to get a new one, which was of course annoying. And it just like, I throw it down concrete stairs and I didn't even bother to check because I'm like, I know it's fine. Fantastic cases.
They're good, yeah.
Yeah, no, they're great. It was like it was the free one that came with the phone the first time as well. And I was like, damn, that's a great
That's
case.
funny.
But then there's just a lot of weird dialogue. It's like, have you tried asking her why she's following you? In Ruby, instead of going, well, yes, but she always moves away from me, I can't get close to her, just flat out lies and says no, which of course like makes her look crazy. And I'm like, Ruby, girl, I love your fashion, but there is a middle ground between lying the ridiculous no and saying she magically moves. You know, like there's a middle ground. It's the sort of death of a thousand cuts where none of this would like ruin the episode. Where I thought it was going would kind of ruin the episode.
Yeah.
But that's like, following is the wrong word. I'm like, no, you literally just described following. She is, and I quote, following you from a distance. If you'd prefer, tailing. Stalking is a little specific. She might not necessarily, she is technically stalking you, but that implies a motivation. Yeah. Like, then you've got Latin professor over here, just like, because you kind of get the vibes that, at least I did, the episode would take place entirely in this bar. And because you have a very colorful cast of people, actually a lot like Midnight. You've got, like, beret, Latin-speaking professor lady, cranky barmaid. You've got, like, that modern-y-looking kid. You got, like, two teens that look very different. You've got kind of average Joe guy who goes out at the end. I'm like, okay, the woman is going to keep everyone in the bar, in the here. And so it was just, the whole thing felt a little off. I don't know. And it's just a pub of dicks. Like, other than this woman. Like, okay, so imagine this. You're sitting in a pub with your local friends. You're a small Welsh town. And this woman comes in, clearly terrified and distressed, have lost their possessions. I guess they do have their phone. But, like, is clearly distressed. Is like, hey, I'm being followed by a total stranger. Admittedly, she says she hasn't tried to talk with her, that like she is a bit weird. She's terrified. She is missing her friend. It is also nighttime. She's clearly not prepared to be out there. And they constantly berate her. They make fun of her for the stalker. They're like, oh, that's creepy. They're not concerned for their own safety. Like, and they decide to literally just terrify her even more by telling some random ghost story, because in her fear and delusion, she did come across something that looked kind of creepy, and they broke it. And it's like, you're being racist. We're not, like, all witches out here. Like, what the heck are you thinking? It's like, okay, but, like, she has clearly gone through a terrified stage where she's exhausted every rational option and is now grasping at straws. Like, what?
That's the Welsh. What are you gonna do?
I don't know. Maybe I've never been to Wales, but you know, that's a bold statement to make. Like, but no, he drank in this pub is like 10 out of 10. Just like it's a horrible line.
Funny.
Ignoring the thing, but it just set me up for a bad episode of Doctor Who.
That's,
you know what,
I can see that. I can see that.
That episode would have gone below Space Babies, let me tell you.
I agree. If the episode they were setting up would have happened, I think it would have been worse.
Poor Space Babies, you know, it gets beat on just because it's like mid, you know.
Yeah, it's not bad.
There are far worse episodes than Space Babies. All right, shall we get to the good parts of the episode? They're always leading me. Yeah. Oh wow. Man, I really didn't think that the episode was. I saw someone on Reddit say that this episode convinced them that Doctor Who needs to be an hour now, because apparently some of the episodes have had cuts, and it's affected things. Like, the Doctor mentions he told Ruby about the toy maker, but he never did. I kind of brushed it off like, first adventure, probably whatever was after church. But there's some other things. But this episode is 46 minutes, and that's including the stuff at the... In fact, this episode is 45 minutes about. It felt longer. Because I read it and believed them. I'm like, oh yeah, that's like 50-something minutes. So as much as it had problems, like the middle was special good. I don't have anything till she's back home. What about you?
Scrub through.
Scrub
of course,
through.
beautiful
So
set design.
she says hi to the TARDIS, who is frankly being rude. I think she's sulking. Like, I don't know, or you could say magic, but honestly, if you're starting to get to the point where you can magic the TARDIS, like, okay, I think you've crossed a line here. Yeah, she's being rude. Rude girl. Because she can open herself. We know this. We've seen it. She could do it.
Yeah, I know. I don't think like the TARDIS, the Doctor, like, or I don't know, working or alive, existing.
Yeah,
I don't know. They got magicked, and they got to explain
you know,
it. I need it.
It doesn't look like the lights are on inside.
No, it's just a box, and it never moves, and nothing ever happens.
The implication might be that she died.
Maybe
that'd be sad.
Maybe,
but
bad day.
I don't know. She does refer to the companions as strays, so you know, it's really her and the Doctor.
Yeah.
Rude though.
I did like the train scene. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Just
well,
a small
here's
little
something I
moment.
would have loved, because they did bring it up later. But when you can't get close to her, my first thought was, okay, pull out your phone and, like, you know, zoom in so you can see her. And they addressed, like, you know, she can't be taken far away, so fair. But I was like, you know what would be an amazing shot that I don't know how difficult it would be, but is she pulls out her phone, right? And you see the woman from, like, her perspective. And she zooms in. And then the woman moves away from the camera, like, motionless, at the exact speed that Ruby zooms in. I'm like, that'd be cool. That's the shot that you pitch, and, like, they make the episode because of how cool that shot is.
Yeah.
And it's like,
that
you know,
would have been cool.
Complaining about what they didn't do, but I was like, God, you know, like, come you pixelate them, why don't you? You know, it's almost so disappointing because of how cool that idea is. So yeah, I was kind of disappointed. Again, there was a few disappointing things. This is why it's not really till Kate that it really kicks it into, like, no critiques. I don't think I have critiques. I don't. I have arguably one. Like, I have half a critique from, like, Kate showing up to the ending. But, in fact, I have most of my notes just say I love. But, that, like, we don't, it's just like they know about the Doctor and Ruby, which sure they do, but I'm still disappointed we didn't get to see that interaction of, like, her telling them how family feels about the travels. They're clearly okay with it to a point, but, like,
we get part of it right here.
Do they have no conniptions? Do they know that Ruby is putting herself in danger? Because, you know, Jackie, for example, is rightfully, like, she hates it. So her 19-year-old daughter is, like, going off and doing these death-defying things because, like, the Doctor's good-looking. You know, she hates it. And she doesn't, you don't have to hate it. You could be like, that's so cool. But I still wish I could see some, like, either do they not know, or is it like, I get what you're doing. It's like good, like maybe like the parent of a soldier, maybe. It's like, I know what you're doing. I'm like, I'm glad you're doing good work. I wish you weren't in as much danger. Like, I'd love to see more of Carla and Cherry and how they feel about Ruby.
Yeah,
It
I would
almost
like that.
it almost feels like they wrote this episode and they were like, hang on, we need them to know about the Doctor because like we need all these weird things to happen, and so they like slap the scene onto Space Babies like, they know, you know. Like why did is it the episode count? But then that's not an excuse. That doesn't make it good. That's just the reason it was bad, you know.
Yeah.
And especially it feels so weird to criticize Russell T Davies for not showing the companion's home life. If we never went to Carla, I'd be fine with it, you know. But since we're doing it, I want more. I thought they'd be a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought her whole pottery thing was weird. Like, she had a very specific experience with men. But I realized on the second watch through, it's more generic. She mentions, like, model trains. And she even's like, I don't know, I've never had a garden or a shed or a man.
Yeah, I liked that.
Like, I've never really clocked that. I think that, like, Carla was a single. I mean, there's Cherry, but, you know, she only left her bed once and she was in a rocking chair, so. Yeah. Russell T Davies really doesn't like dads, does he? Rose, no. I mean, she had a dead dad, but I guess he did show up. Martha has a dad, but her parents are divorced. Donna's dad is dead, but she does have a grandfather. He doesn't like dads.
It's not his thing.
What did Russell T Davis's dad do to him? You know, I actually don't know. He might have been horrible, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to say Rose doesn't have a dad, but you know, he isn't in a picture like Jackie.
Yeah.
And he cheated on Jackie. You know, just saying.
Well, mistakes happen.
It was, you know, it was the luggage. They were looking for a coat, and suddenly the luggage fell on them, and it like pulled off all their clothes. Like, it was really weird. But yeah, again, it's just this one. But this is like the one proper plot criticism I have. It's like they're doing this because this is how the plot needs it to be. The goal and the exact line is, I go up to her, then you, Ruby, can hear what she says, right? Do you notice, or should I tell you?
Notice.
Why
that didn't
isn't
happen?
Carla on speakerphone? You know, if the goal is for Ruby to hear what she says, not I will tell you what she says, but you can hear what she says.
I mean, I can comfortably let that one go for a couple of reasons that they established within the story.
Okay.
Oh, no, they established it in the next scene.
Well, what's the reason, though?
Okay, well, one, you can sort of hear, like, whispers through the phone, if I remember correctly.
Well, sure, but if it was on speaker, you could hear more. Like, if you want to establish that you couldn't transmit, that because of the magic, Ruby can't hear what she's saying, you have Ruby not hear anything, or hear, like, garble, and maybe their mom's like, can't you hear it? Like, put the phone up to her mouth, and be like, can't you hear this? But Ruby can't.
Yeah, it's at a certain moment in radius next to her. We know that that old Ruby has a radius of the perception filter, at least. But there's also people get close enough, like the unit, which they do in the next scene, that you don't look at her, you don't speak to her, but either way, they got close enough and they immediately sort of go into a trance, as did Ruby's mom when the second she gets there. To me, when she says, like, she looks like what she looks like, she's, like, already gone.
Well, to me, that's the non-technological equivalent of you can't see her. Like, I think once you're up and see Ruby, if you get close enough to 73 yards and, like, perceive her, in fact, that might be why Kate was affected. If you get closer than that and perceive her, you're affected, but they're not effective when they're planning what to do. And, like, it feels like you've made the characters stupid because, as it's established now, if it was on speakerphone, you would hear what she says, and we can't have that. But like we just came up with just, you know, have she looks what she looks like. Have the tech go weird, like the camera goes weird. Why doesn't the phone go staticky? But you can only hear Carla. Like, there are ways to do it better. Or have Carla be like a dinosaur who uses a flip phone and be like, you can't do speaker. Like, I don't know. That might be a bit of a stretch. Well, no. Carla had a Polaroid, right? We've established Carla is into like older stuff. Just have her be like the only flip phone that still works, you know? It's like a vintage phone, because they do work if you could get one. But that was like, yeah. But I think you've touched on a point that a lot of people seem to be missing on this episode, is a lot of discussions like, what could she possibly be saying that is making everyone go like weird, like terrified?
I am deeply intrigued on that.
Well, I think that you're missing the point is that she isn't. Like, Kate didn't hear anything. She's just watching the woman. Like, I will admit the episode is really set up so it looks like she says something and they run away, and a lot of people are disappointed you don't learn. But it's more, you know, the magic that's just like, she doesn't say anything. She doesn't do anything. There is nothing so terrifying that Carla would abandon Ruby forever. Like, it's the magic. Like, you know, she could say abracadabra, you know?
A rebuttal of
yeah,
distinctly two of the characters, the Joe Schmo at the bar and the Prime Minister, say to ask her whenever they're like, what the heck just happened? And the response is, go ask her, being old Ruby.
I agree.
Saying maybe that old Ruby would say something.
Well, you could also interpret go ask her is go up to her to ask, and now you know.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't have to say anything. But, like, again, the counter is Kate, who never hears anything and is, like, 72 yards away from her. It's not even that. She's, like, 72.3. Like, but, because, like, if there actually was something, it'd be underwhelming. There is nothing. Like, there has to be, you know, the magic that...
Yeah, I don't think there could be...
she says something and the magic, but,
I don't think you could ever say what exactly she said, but you could say, like... You could say what she said without saying it, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know, she told me about this without actually saying what she said. Like, that would be the only way that you could... There could be something so terrifying.
She's repeating the same thing, so if she is saying anything, I would say it's don't step, which is what we hear at the end. Don't step, don't step. And people aren't finding that terrifying. I mean, I'd probably be a little creeped out. But, like, it's the magic, you know, quote unquote. Yeah. It's the magic.
Yeah.
But, okay, so another reason, right, this hadn't really sold me. It's a great episode, right? It's called The Curse of Clyde Langer. It's an episode of the Sarah Jane Adventures, which so far is basically this. It's actually one of the episodes that I cite is like, the Sarah Jane Adventures is not just a kid's show. Like that, I'm actually surprised that The Curse of Clyde Langer is in the Sarah Jane Adventures. Like one of the kids, Clyde Langer, it's Sarah Jane and a bunch of kids, you know, it's like, cause it's a kid's show. Clyde Langer, cause you know that's one of the spin-offs, right? I've told you that. Clyde Langer, basically a thing happens and he gets cursed. So his name is cursed. And anyone who like hears or sees, or I think even thinks Clyde Langer hates him. They hate him. Like, they want him out of his life. They want to, like, beat him. Literally anyone. As soon as they hear his name, they'll, like, cut him out of life and they'll hate him. And even, like, that's a bit. There's a scene where his mother, he goes home, and his mother sees, like, his homework or something that's got his name, and she, like, throws him out of the house. And this isn't just Ruby. This is an actual kid. Like, it would be illegal to do this. And, like, he has to go be homeless and, like, live on the streets because literally no one... He can't go to anybody. Like, the only person he knows is someone who, after he realizes what's going on, he gives him a fake name. And so I'm like, okay, are we doing that again? So it's kind of the disappointment of, have I just seen this episode before? Because so far, it's basically that. You know, it's a different reason, but I'm like, is this just The Curse of Clyde Langer? So I was like, it'd be a good episode. I mean, Curse of Clyde Langer was a good episode. It was a great episode, but you know, it's retreading, and so this is why it didn't hook me here.
Okay. Yeah,
yeah.
Absolutely true statement, and you're in a small minority of people who Clyde Langer exists for.
Okay, but amongst the Doctor Who fandom, it's not that small. Like the general public, like that's why I also thought is like of everyone who's going to see this episode, a minority will have seen the Sarah Jane Adventures. Now, actually, a lot of people who were young when it came out and were the target demographic did get into Doctor Who through that. It was very successful, like much more longevity than the adult spin-off Torchwood. Just because you have people who like that was their Doctor Who. Their first Doctor was Sarah Jane, sort of thing. But so that's why I was like, you could reuse it and not get too much flack, but if you have seen it.
Yeah, definitely.
And then again, okay, I think this might be the last complaint in the entire script. Oh no, there's one more. That even then I could wave away. I'm kind of bothered that, like, at the end, she mentions no one even told her if her mother died, right? I guess Cherry is older, but, like, what? Cherry never speaks to the woman. And, like, sure, if the mother, like, gets an injunction against Ruby, is like, she's not coming in my house. I don't remember who owns it. Like, Cherry can't really do much. Carla could probably have threatened, like, I'll get one on you, too. But Cherry could still keep in touch with Ruby. Like, Cherry could send, I guess maybe they don't have money, like there's only so much, but why does Cherry cut Ruby out of her life? Why doesn't Ruby go to Miss Flood or any of her other friends? Even just at the start.
Cherry being told, like, because Cherry's, bedridden essentially.
Yeah.
And I could see just absolute communications being cut off because of the newfound motherly hatred.
I suppose.
And how strong that is.
And there's also, I'll get into more like the underlying themes of the episode, but there's the case that Ruby might be so terrified that anyone else runs away, like she loses anyone else, that she doesn't involve them.
Yeah.
Over the course of 20 years, that does feel a little extreme when you're risking a chance of abandonment versus actual abandonment, like a certainty. But we'll get into the end, as I've said. This is one of the things people have picked up on about the episode. But it's okay. Kate's here. It's about to get good. I mean, yeah, there's some powerful stuff in here, though, definitely. Like, don't get me wrong. This isn't, like, garbage. It's just, it's not the very, very special, not really knowing what's going on, but absolutely being there. That, like, from this on is. So, yeah, Kate shows up. I was going to Google specifically what an injunction is if I had time, but oh well. There were some stuff Kate said that I found intriguing, right? Is first off, she mentioned we deal with the alien, which, they've done for like 40 or 50 years. That's a deep joke right there. That's deep cut. But and more and more the supernatural, which I found interesting because they haven't been on Earth, well, modern, like unit Earth, I think at all. I guess technically the Beatles might have. I don't remember. Yeah, no, the Beatles would. Okay, I'm not getting into the unit dating controversy, but just trust me, you could read about it. It's very long.
Okay.
But I found that interesting because that implies supernatural stuff is happening on Earth without the Doctor there. And I even mentioned, I don't feel supernatural stuff is happening in the series. Like, are the goblins... they're goblins. But are they really more supernatural than the lizard people who are buried underground? Like, it's... That is a deep cut. Thank you, Jack's Law. I'm so glad someone got the 40 or 50 years joke. I'll explain it to you after. We can talk about the unit dating controversy. But, so, yeah, Ruby reached out to Unit, which that they're findable. But Kate has the line, this timeline might be suspended along your event, which I found very fascinating.
Yeah, agreed.
because it's like this is a split off timeline, right? This isn't the main timeline. This is weird stuff happening, which I feel you didn't have to establish. That was kind of clear from the events. But
Yeah.
who do I know? I've said this before. You'll have to tell me when we go through Doctor Who. I'm either like a temporal mechanics genius, or people who write time travel assume the audience are morons. One of those two things are true, and I don't know which. Because it's very rare for me to come across like a time travel thing where it's like, no, that just makes sense. Like, I get it. But they'll write even like experienced people who deal with time travel will be like, oh yeah, I did that in the future. I past tense in the future. And then someone will go like, this is so confusing. How do you keep it straight? I'm like, what? This is like the simplest possible scenario. Like, can you not get? And I don't know. This isn't me bragging, because I might be insulting them. I don't know. David C., he is on your side, Caden. $20, solid 9, not enough Doctor.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, the Doctor Light episodes, as they're called, are often very good. Blink, famously.
Yeah, I'm all right with the lack of Doctor in this episode.
I'm trying
I
to
just
think
wish
of
I knew what
others.
happened to the Doctor.
Fear Her, but that's not love.
But yeah, 9. Thank you. Glad.
So this is an Eccleston out of 10. It's it's I make you rank your doctors on out of the name of the actors. Therefore, you can only give 9 and 10 because like you don't know anyone else.
Until I see a great episode, I can.
Well, I still haven't ranked it. I have no idea. It's not lower than 7. I don't think it's a 9. So that might mean it's an 8, but it might be a 7. I don't know. There's a lot. We'll get it. That's the end. I'll really have to think
on it because
there's so much to consider. You know, maybe I rank the first time and all the other times differently. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But like literally after the episode, I was like, I literally have no idea. I don't even know if it's like 5 to 10 or 1 to 5. Like I literally have no. And so when you were like, I can't make it Saturday, I'm like, what about Monday? What about Monday? I found it interesting. Unit could apparently detect this, and I think that line implies, right, that the timeline is fixated on Ruby's event, so there are no alien invasions. There's nothing else happening. Like, why is it that next year's episode where like Earth gets taken over by the duck people, why isn't that in this? Well, because this timeline's fixated on Ruby. The magic is making it happen. Which they need, because the other times they've done this, I'm looking at you, Turn Left. Hey! Turn Left! That's a Dr. Light episode. He's dead for that one. It's you. You will remember it after we get.
I remember that one.
Oh, you do? Yeah. No.
Yeah, it's got a little bug on the back or something.
That's what they called them last time. You remembered that from the title. But anyway, well, I don't remember. What was the point? Oh yeah, that has a lot of problems, because later in the 11th Doctor, when they reboot the universe, God, I hate this plot line. So the Doctor never existed. Well, a few seasons ago, we established that the Earth would be royally, like, screwed if the Doctor never existed, for reasons that have literally nothing to do with the Doctor. But also, Unit still knows about the Doctor, and everything that he did still seems to have happened. And we brought this up at some point. I don't know if I was live. The Time War happened, and the Time Lords were still killed by the Doctor, despite the fact that the Doctor supposedly never existed. Everyone stopped telling me the universe reset in the 11th Doctor, because it clearly didn't. In literally every meaningful way, it did not reset.
Yeah.
There's my rant. Screw you, Moffat. Moffat, you did this to me. And yeah, a lot of little lines that I totally missed. The talk about the perception filter, which I think you brought up. There are rules to the perception filter. If even outside Doctor Who, right? If you've never looked into like perception-based disabilities or condition, I can never remember the word for disability, but it's not debilitating. But do, because so much will make sense. Aphantasia is kind of along that lines, but they can get weird. Face blindness is one I have that's probably the most common, is you see faces, but you don't perceive them.
Yeah.
It's so hard to describe to someone who doesn't have any sort of perception thing, because it can sound so weird. There's one I know that's probably the weirdest I've heard, that you won't perceive things on either the left or the right side of your vision. It's one of them. It's not, if it's both.
I heard about that a bit
blindness.
ago. Yeah.
Like, if you'll shave, you'll only shave the right side of your face because you won't perceive the left. But it's not like your vision is a black leftness and then only the right. You'll see the whole thing. If you ask someone with this condition to, like, describe something in front of them, they'll describe everything on the right. But if you ask them to look at something on the left, they'll look at it like it's there. And the best description I can find, right, is, you know, you're in, like, a dark room or something. You're in your bed, and you look up, and you see, like, a person just, like, over the bed. But that turns out it's a coat hanging on the wall.
Yeah.
You always saw a coat. You saw a coat the whole time. Nothing changed. But at first you perceived a person. And it looked like a person because your brain connected its patterns and went, this is a person. And you saw arms and a head and eyes and mouth and legs. Even though there definitely aren't legs there, your brain saw the shape and went, person. People have legs. People have faces. But then when your brain realized, actually, that's a coat, it snaps and you're like, no, that's a coat. I see everything now. I see all the wrinkles. I see the coat. That is sight versus perception. And so this is why the way it's described in Doctor Who is like, if you go, hey, look at that blue box, you'll see the TARDIS. But like, if it's not really called out, if you're just kind of doing nothing, you won't see it. There's one where they use a perception filter to hide. It's like, if you like pulled out a gun, like people would see you. Because, like, you're being weird. If you, like, ran around, like, naked waving your arms, they'd see you. Because you're just too weird. But, like, if you're just walking along, they won't perceive you. They'll just look around them, yeah.
Yeah.
It's sight versus perception is such a fascinating thing if you've never gone into it.
Never really have.
And if you have a problem with perception filters and anything, like, mind-altering, look up real-world perception versus sight and perception-based disabilities, and you will literally never complain about any of that again. Because you'll realize, actually, it's very feasible. Like, the sci-fi in the perception filter is, like, putting it in people's brains. Everything else is just science. Like, that's the sci-fi part, you know? This scene has a fun Easter egg.
Ooh,
On
what's
this
that?
table, I don't know what shot it is, but like Kate hangs Ruby something and there's a QR code on the table, right? And if you try and scan it, it won't work because a few of the dots are missing. But if you fix the QR code, you'll get a link to the website for the graphic designer of Doctor Who, which is 10 out of 10. Like,
I love that.
Nothing but respect. Mad respect.
Yeah. I love that.
I absolutely love that, yeah. It's a shame it's missing, like, 3 dots, I think, but you can put them together, you know. I learned there's loads of redundancy in QR codes, because they're meant to be put places where they'll get absolutely knackered. So yeah, it's not too hard for, like, a phone. It's actually kind of impressive that the technology couldn't put the QR code back together. But, yeah. Are you ready for the final complaint that's not like a half complaint of the whole episode?
What you got?
This also felt like a little bit out of plot, needed it to happen. It's not the craziest thing in the world, because it's kind of along Unit's lines, but, like, what's the point of securing the woman and then bringing Ruby to Unit? Because no matter what you do, she's always 73 yards from Ruby. I wish he'd explained the train thing, but whatever. Because it's like, what about boats and planes? It's like, well, she follows me. That she goes as fast as she needs to, kind of. And also, we've been glossing over the fact the whole time that she absolutely isn't constantly 73 yards away, because every time we see her when Ruby's in motion, she's completely static. But whatever. Glossing over that. Like, if you just bring Ruby to Unit, you'll have also brought the woman to Unit. In fact, if she doesn't go into unit, that's far more interesting to know. Like, if you put her in the truck and then you move Ruby, then the woman's gonna move.
I didn't think about that.
If you want to contain Ruby, this is going real detail. Why not bring Ruby to unit and put her in the middle of a room where, like, around her, 73 yards away, is a cage in, like, all directions. It's just like a circular cage.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, Ruby is trapped in that room, but if your goal is to contain the creature, I mean, it felt like, well, we need unit out of the picture kind of thing, so.
Yeah.
But it's just that Kate was affected. I'm fine with the soldiers going up and being affected by. I feel this is kind of the thing with not explaining anything. Is what did Kate do? Because everyone else has to go up to the woman, like the hiker and the guy at the bar and her mom. They all walk up to the woman, and then they. I mean, I guess we don't know for a fact they aren't affected as they walk up. Maybe they are. Yeah. But it was kind of weird that Kate got. My wife says, because look, she is hitting her earbud, that she's hearing the thing through the speakers. But you know what that would do? It would tell me if you put your phone on speaker, you could have heard the woman at the start. So,
yeah,
look, that's a no-win scenario there.
Yeah, that.
But I mean,
I never clocked that.
I kind of like better that it's not going to the woman; it's perceiving her.
Yeah.
And I guess being closer than 73 yards, because like both the guy in the bar and Susan, she points out the woman, and Kate seats her in this scene. But also closer than 73 yards. Dang it. It's okay. It's a little shaky, but look. This is the one complaint in the middle section. I'll look past it. It was just like, really. I'm also thinking like, holy, Kate just left. Like, you got the actress for like this one scene. That probably took a bit of work, Like that wasn't nothing. You got him up, did the hair and makeup like for this, which was usually when you get Kate in, you use her, right? But that's the real part. I also had that watching the episode, like, dang, is she filming like the unit show or something? Like, hey Kate, you got like half an hour. Okay, the next line is a complaint, but I already said it, that like you never tell one of your boyfriends over the course of 20 years. Like, I don't know, it felt a little
moment when they started going into the future was the one smart moment I had, where I had thought that I knew what was going to happen, and that Ruby's getting older, so she's going to become the old lady. And I'm gonna put it on the table that I'm proud of that, and I'm a genius.
I mean, it was like maybe 15 seconds after I saw the old woman for me, but good on you. I've watched a lot of Doctor Who. No,
I put the pieces together. Dang it!
It's not like I never knew. I don't think there was ever a point where I knew it was going to happen, but I was like, I mean, that one would make sense. I don't have any other options in front of me.
Could have been an alien.
It could have,
girl
but
that reoccurs all the time.
It would have been really weird to introduce like an alien in the last 5 minutes that then exposits everything that happened. Like, it could have just been unexplained though. Like, I figured it would either be you never know or it's Ruby. But also, especially with these kind of like I don't know what going on episodes, it's not like I'm sitting there constantly going like, oh, but who is she? Was like analyzing everything. It's like, no, I was here for the ride. But it occurred to me, like, old Ruby would make sense, was basically mine. Like, that'd be scary if you saw the older version. Not like, but there's something there. And that reminds me, actually, I found a lot of interesting things, like Susan Twist evidently can get scared. Right?
Yeah. But I mean, the Doctor was also thrown out of existence.
I mean, it'd be weird if Susan Twist is like your big bad or related, that you had something more powerful than her. But it implies, like, for one, she could be faking, but that would be kind of lazy. Yeah, but at the same time, I kind of like the image of her kind of snickering as she goes up to the woman, and she's the only one who screams. So I kind of like that she like has a nice chat. It's like, you know what? I'd forgive it if at the end we see clips of her from previous episodes, but we actually see her go up to old woman, crack some joke. It's being like, yes, It's like I wish I looked that good at your age, or the opposite. Don't you wish you looked this good, like like me at your age? And he's like, watch this, just waving her arms. Like I like that image, but I almost wonder, maybe this Susan Twist character is actually a different character every time. Like they're actually part of the timeline for the fans, similar to how Clara worked, or maybe this actually was more powerful. Maybe it's not as simple as like some time traveler following them around. Because I mean, she was part of the Villain Guard algorithm. You know, they're doing a good job of showing a lot of quirky things if you're really analyzing. Like, apparently Ruby can die. So if there are gods that have a special interest in her, they're either not paying like 100% attention, or they don't require her to live. Maybe they knew she'd survive, boom. But the Susan one is really interesting.
Yeah.
Like even that she was in the ambulance, or you know, she's been in the episodes, but not with the Doctor and Ruby. Like she was at the station in Space Babies when it was abandoned. So I like these little. It's a great way to do the mystery. Like
lots of little seeds.
Because the thing about a mystery box is, I'm going to make this comparison. I do it a lot. But modern shows will often build a series around like a mystery. And people often complain. Because, well, for one, often it's not the best done. That's just a writing skill issue. But you never go and rewatch those shows. Because, I mean, this isn't an absolute, of course. But you know the mystery. And it's solved.
Yeah.
And there's not really much. Because the rest of the show is figuring it out. So when you do a mystery box, you can't actually have it be about the mystery. Season 3 of Enterprise is the best example of this by far. What happens, spoilers for season 3 of, actually this might even be season 2. I don't remember if it's the closing or the opening one. But at the start of the season, like this weapon comes to Earth. It just like shoots a laser across like Florida and like kills a bunch of people. It's like a big attack, and we know nothing about it. And we learn in the first episode, someone called the Xindi did it. They were told that they've been misinformed. They think humanity's a threat. They're not. And the Xindi did it. And they gotta go, the Enterprise has to go find the Xindi, right? And there's a lot of mystery. They're in a weird region of space. There are these weird spheres, these weird anomalies. Who are the Xindi even? Where are they? There's a lot of mystery baked into the season. But the season is never one. And by the way, it's a great mystery. Like, every step of the way, you figure things out either immediately before or immediately after the characters in the show. You're always, like, right with it. It's incredible. But it's not about the mystery. Never. From day one, Starfleet Command is like, no, you have to go find the Xindi. And you got to make peace. You got to explain this is like a misunderstanding. And it's never about like, they're not in a war. There's like, shit, we got to explain this to them. Like, and because we also know they're going to send a bigger one. That was a test. And they're going to send one that is going to destroy Earth. That's the threat, right? Earth will be destroyed. There will be no Federation. Like all this stuff. And the entire series is never about that incredible mystery. It's about a lot of situations where how far would humanity go when literally everything is on the line? Because, you know, we're this utopian. We're the good guys. You know, we ask questions first, shoot never, and then have a briefing at 6. Like, that's the Star Trek world. And so you can rewatch that. Yes, it's better the first time because the mystery element is there. But it's amazing because you still have these incredible stories about the crew wrestling. Like, a lot of them are like, I had family in Florida that were just, like, murdered. And now you're telling me we gotta, like, make peace, not even defend ourselves when the Xindis attack? Like, it's fantastic. And this is doing something similar. Where we've never once talked about the mystery in the show. We kind of had some stuff at the beginning with the snow and the like, just to establish that weird things are happening. And even the Doctor is like, I've never seen this. But then everything else just lets you build on the mystery. And so if you don't care, whatever. Hey, it's Susan Twist. But if you really want to think about and analyze, you're like, well, she can get scared, and Ruby can die, and all these things. So like Ruby probably isn't a god because they're not immortal, and it's much better, I think, than any other way Russell T Davies has done things, where like they just say bad wolf once an episode. You know?
Yeah.
It's fun, but you can't really dig into that.
Yeah.
You can just notice it. I like the sequence, though. My wife complained they didn't find Ruby's aging convincing. I found it... I knew it. They did put wrinkles under her eyes. I told my wife.
I thought it was fun.
I mean, they used old people glasses, so fair enough. But
Yeah, like I said...
It worked. No, it worked. That's an older
I usually
Ruby.
don't love just aging sequences in general. And it was interesting that to make her older, they, like, progressively made her hairstyle further into the 90s.
It is. I did clock that they kind of made her look like the reason old styles and hair and glasses look old is because they were the popular thing when like our parents were in high school. So I clock that, but I'm like, I don't know, Ruby's from our time.
Yeah,
Ruby just, you know, sometimes you want to look like an old librarian.
They needed to make her old, and she's just a young person, so they did a good job with a young person.
Well, you talked about the Russian-European War of 2031. Like, applause. You know, well done. I hope we can look back and laugh on how this war never happened in a few years. But that is something, one way or another, you're going to hear about in, like, 5 years, is the Russian-European War from Doctor Who. But yeah, I like, and it's just part of the like, oh, and like I kept counting as we saw birthday cards, like, oh, it's been like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and like we keep, and it's a great reveal here where like you set up the guy at the start who's kind of like, oh, it's 2040, but you're like, I mean, no, it's not 2040. I would probably argue without counting, most episodes of Doctor Who start with the Doctor saying something random about where they've landed that has nothing to do with when, right? Like a lot of episodes. And so you see that guy and wait, you go like 20 years. It's 2043. It's like, that's such a cool moment. You're like, oh, wait, we actually have to deal with that nuclear Armageddon that like they mentioned. And that was cool. That was really cool. And so yeah, it's whole pulling the rug out from Kate and this whole aging sequence that got me in that vibe of I think I'm gonna try and go a little ahead because we actually are kind of brushing up against that thing. I gotta leave this house at like 2:45, and I'd rather not be in like pajamas and only stay up because I tuck them into my underwear, you know. So in the office. Okay, no, small detail. Hang on, let me find it. It's about 33 minutes, so I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. It's in the previous shots, but I'm looking for 1524. Oh no, I'm going this way. 1505, 1513. Down in the bottom right. I'm almost there. Disney! I wanted to play! Okay. Okay, they are... I'm gonna say first, I thought it was better than it actually is. I love this map. I'm actually gonna get something on my other monitor. Do you know why I love this map? Because I don't know if you know enough about UK politics to know this map.
No.
This is clearly like election results, right?
Yeah.
You have these like blue and red. There's like, I don't know, like 5 parties or something in the UK. But you have these blue and red that are like, you know, probably the big ones. But the entire northern section of this map is an entirely different color from everybody else. And do you know why that is? Welcome to Scotland. Hang on, I'm going to show you Brexit vote map. This is the map of who voted what for the Brexit referendum. And you might notice something about this map. I adore it. Here's an even better one. I adore that Scotland clearly... First off, I'm pretty sure Scotland is smaller than it is in the real world. implying that at least part of Scotland has gotten independence. Well done. Because I'm looking at, okay, I'll get Google Maps. Like, Scotland's this whole top bit up here.
Yeah.
And it's smaller there, right?
Huh.
So I choose to believe,
Substantially.
unless you're saying sea levels rose a lot. I also thought Northern Ireland had left, but no, that's what that little dot is there. And I got a good chuckle out of the fact that this is such a small, tiny detail, but it's like, yeah, the, like, horrible politician won, but Scotland was against it, and specifically Scotland.
Tried.
Scotland, you
That's
know,
funny.
I hope you get
I
that
like that.
referendum you want. I really do. You seem like a fantastic place. I can really sympathize Scotland with being a fantastic place that just has to deal with the higher government.
Yeah.
You can take me out of Seattle, but you can't take the Seattle out of me. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's a funny little detail.
I adore that detail, yeah. Because they are, like, a lot of the maps are Scotland. I thought Northern Ireland as well, but, like, you'll see Scotland and then London specifically, the city, are, like, the two faces that, like, really agree on the liberal policy, and then everyone else. You know, it's a lot like America, where you got those, like, dots of cities.
Mm-hmm.
The whole map is red, because most of us are fields, you know?
Yeah.
And there's so many things about this politician. I adore how, in the interview, he dodges the question. He only sort of does it, like, yes, I do like nukes.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't actually address the question at all. Like, hey, these are what people care about. You're talking about spending billions more, which will make these problems worse. He's like, yes, I do like nukes. Oh my god, so many. The comment where he learns the girl's name is Mari is like, oh, boy's name. Mm-hmm. Like, someone pointed out in Reddit, he's not actually a bad politician in any, like, specific way. He's not racist. He's not even really, like, any specific party of the UK or even US governments. Of course, this is US critique, but, you know, we got Donald Trump. You know, you can, there's a lot of similarities. But, he's, like, just generically not great and subtle, but when he says boys' names, you know what he means. Like, when he dodges the questions, you know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like, we already established he's, like, wants to nuke the world. That's bad enough. We don't need any more. But they handle... 13's doctor also had a bad politician. He was literally a Trump character, to the point where the people in the chat probably don't know his name. They know him as, like, the Trump guy. He was literally an American politician who was a businessman who owned a chain of hotels and was, like, comically bad. Yeah, he was Donald Trump. What the heck was his name? I genuinely don't know, because he's just Donald Trump. And he wants to be president. I forgot to mention that. Okay, we do only have so much time. I am as proud of the reference to a hypothetical 2031 Russian war as I am baffled at the assumption that the UK is still a part of NATO. That's bold. Like, okay, there's a great real life lore video that recently came out that a lot of things are kind of lining up in the next 4 years that somewhat coincidentally would be the next American presidency of, it could potentially be very, very bad times. And one of those paths is that Russia, assuming it gets what it wants out of the war in Ukraine, which is why it's really bloody important to not let them, there's kind of a clear string of dominoes in setup that it might be eyeing a war against Estonia, Latvia, and Talia, which are the Baltic states up in, like, they're the EU that border Russia. And if you know anything about politics or, like, geography, that sort of thing, you might have just realized I mentioned that Russia might be eyeing up declaring war on members of the European Union, which would bring the entire European Union into a war with Russia. And the European Union includes countries that are part of NATO, meaning that you would invoke Article 4 and you could bring the entirety of NATO, including the United States, into a full-on war with Russia, which is obviously very bad.
not ideal.
This is basically the scenario if hypothetical scenario if the world events go very well for Russia in the next few years, including a Trump victory, because Trump's said a lot of it. Like Trump would let Russia probably, because Trump is very unhappy that Europe. And to be fair, Europe has really slacked on like its defense contributions to NATO, and basically it relies on like us doing anything. And so this isn't just like, yeah, Russia bad. No, this is actually like a clever observation. And it, like loads of European world leaders, especially, you know, being those 3 Baltic states, are like, no, guys, like, actually, this is really important. And we need to let Russia not take steps towards that. And hey, let's also mention that, you know, if China's ever going to militarily push its claim on Taiwan, it'll probably be between like 2027 and like 2030. So we'll also be distracted as a country. This isn't just blind politician bad. No, this is like, hey, let's make sure we do things right now so we don't get Roger. Although bold claim, you know, I hope you're right, ma'am, but I also hope that, you know, we don't throw nukes at Russia if they do press a claim. I just hope we don't throw nukes in general. But, God, that's one that I really hope you don't hear about in the future. Like, wow, Doctor Who talked about even the year, man, 2031, like.
It's close.
A Donald Trump presidency would always be bad. But a Donald Trump presidency, specifically in the next 4 years, is epistemically terrifying. For so many reasons. If you're American, go vote Biden, because it's the only one that matters, honestly, on that list.
If we go to war, I'll be sure to find myself in a lifelong time loop.
All right, and stop. Well, you won't stop the war, but you'll stop the guy after.
I'll make it a little better.
Yeah, you'll make it a little better. Okay, thanks. Okay, going on to the stadium, I think, unless you have anything else you want to say about good old Roger.
Not really.
Man, I feel for the people. There we go, in that frame I've got on the mouse, who have to put these stickers on the 30,000 seats in this stadium, and then in a few hours take them off. Yeah. I actually feel for those guys worse. They're the real losers in this. Bear in mind, I'm actually amazed he almost brought the world to nuclear war. Like, almost? Damn, that is faith in humanity if I have ever seen it. Yeah. Here's my half complaint, though. Is there something about Marty I'm kind of missing here? Because Ruby gets up and is like, I wish I could have helped you too, but I couldn't. And I don't... Am I supposed to know who Marty is? I guess my question.
I mean, my interpretation from the few scenes that there were between her and Roger was just that there's a creepy power imbalance relationship that she doesn't want to be in, and Ruby just wishes she could have stopped that sooner.
Why didn't she help her by what she's about to do now? By getting Roger, like, out of the government?
I mean...
I guess theoretically they could continue a relationship, but the power dynamic isn't there anymore.
Yeah, I think the relationship's done, but it's like damage has also already been done, probably, is my guess.
It just felt a bit weird, because I think you're right, and the more I think about even, like, specifically asking who they were, like, that was showing interest. But I'm like, I think you kind of did, you know? Like,
yeah.
And they're clearly like they're clearly not really a fan of Roger. Maybe they were, and then they actually saw him. Like, you know, they got to see the cut scenes, which really news. Come on, did you cut that? You probably weren't the BBC. I assume that if I was British, I would have recognized that set, but you know, I'm not. So
I think it's one of just those cases of like, wish I could have helped you sooner, but I didn't. Even though I'm still gonna probably do some good right now.
Maybe, but the line was kind of like I felt like she didn't think she was helping her. Okay. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I've just seen that phone. Yeah, I never clocked it was glass. Huh. I mean, I wouldn't be totally surprised if phones went that way, but I'd be disappointed in our transparent screens. But hey, no,
Yeah.
look. I don't think that's transparent. Like, maybe some of the bits where it's just
Maybe a
nothing
bit.
background. But no, look, this is all the camera, and I can't see the stands through the camera. Like, granted, it's heavily blurred, but these seats, like, they're lighter, but that's because they're in the bottom. I think that's glass, but not transparent if you don't want it to be, which is my biggest problem with transparent screens.
My guess, yeah.
But did you think what Alex and I thought when she went and pulled up into her coat? I thought you just had it like a gun. She was gonna like shoot him because it looked like calmly pulling out a gun to like.
It's funny to me that as she was doing her little speech about like I should have done this sooner, that didn't worry anyone because I would think like, oh yeah, she's about to go kill.
Well, they're
Roger.
Like
that's what that feels like.
They're clearly on nerves or whatever. I mean, she's been very faithful. Why would you be like she'd kill him? But like, she is just holding up a phone. You know, like
and when
everyone's concerned and everyone's telling her to stop, but it's like, it is a phone. It's not like he's gonna fall over dead. You know,
I'd be concerned when she said like I'm gonna end this, but then when she steps on the field and pulls out a phone, I wouldn't be concerned anymore. It's like everyone's worry was opposite of mine.
Only like the two. Well, you still like something weird's going on, and this is the prime minister. Like, if someone did this, you'd be like, yeah, but maybe like she's doing something. Maybe she's like spying or like. This is where you launch the drone strike. You can detonate your bomb. He's on the stand now. You know, like you want to get this under, but I thought this was cool. I thought, right? So when it wasn't a gun, I thought she was basically gonna put Roger 73 meters away from her, so that the woman would appear like literally where Roger is, and he'd like disappear, or, like implode or something. Like, and I was like, that's hardcore, man. Like, Boom really got a lot to me. Could you imagine if they broadcast Boom and then broadcast that man like dying a horrible death because there's literally someone inside of him? Like, but I like the solution. You know, it was clever.
New Absorbaloff.
The Absorbaloff, yeah. I love that you remember the Absorbaloff. And this was the perception filter as well. Like, there's not supposed to be a weird woman here. Like, people are noticing her because that's what the perception filter is. It doesn't make you invisible. It just makes you like not seen, not perceived. But I love this Fall of Roger scene. I haven't talked about it, but the music for this whole like Roger gaining power, I adore. There's a hint of like nuclear warning siren in the music. It's almost constant. I'm going to play a little section for you. Yeah, that's too heroic. Let me find the speech. I don't know. You could listen to it, but there's a lot of the music. I don't think it's any specific alarm, but it's same kind of tones you'd hear in like the air raid siren or the American emergency broadcast. That's just that unsettling buildup. And like if there were to be a nuclear assault, I feel I'd hear that noise coming from my phone to tell me, you know? And there's an amazing catharsis where that all changes when the moment he runs away. It's like this very heroic music. I think we're a little late. It's so heroic, and the smiles, and like some good politician comes. It's the looks and the happiness and kind of the elation, because I think everyone good in the audience can kind of relate. Like, for the Americans, it's Donald Trump just ran off the stage. For the British, it's whoever your prime minister is now. Like, honestly, I'm so glad you got an election, because you've been baffling, let's be honest. I'm one to talk. Like, I'll be the first to tell you the American system seems to be designed to be the worst way to run an actual democracy. But you guys got some problems over there, too. Like,
this is all of our big.
I don't even know how frequently. By the way, I think there was an election like 2 days after this aired. Fantastic timing. When they made this episode, it was announced like 2 months ago that there was going to be the general election. It wouldn't be too hard to predict it's this year, but damn, they got lucky with that timing. I don't know. I haven't paid much attention to the UK. I don't know who is in charge of the UK.
I don't know.
They literally went through like 5 prime ministers in like a month or something. None of which they voted for. It's genuinely, it's God.
Of course.
We don't have time to talk about this, but it's genuinely been baffling, UK politics. I don't remember who your good party is. Don't vote the Tory one. I know that's the bad one. I don't remember. But vote the one. Do the Biden vote. The one that's gonna matter. Technically, you don't vote for the prime minister anyway, though. You vote for the party, and then the ruling party picks the prime minister, I believe. But they still didn't vote. You know, they needed an election like many years ago. You know, let's be honest. Okay, I liked in this 40 years. I love this image.
There was a movie I watched recently. This scene got surprisingly emotional for me because I think it's already a little emotional.
No,
yeah.
I was.
I
wasn't crying. But yeah, it was.
It was emotional as is, 100%.
Yeah, no.
But I watched a movie, Akira Kurosawa's Dreams, for anyone who's a big film buff in the comments or whatever.
That sounds like a sad movie.
Well, it's an anthology
That's not a
movie,
happy movie.
and the final one is this guy goes to this village, and as he's walking in, he's talking to this old guy.
Wait, hang on. Whenever I remove this thumbnail screen, we're gonna be done talking about spoilers for this movie, so you can take like your headphones off or mute.
Okay,
go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, he's walking into the village, and it's just about how they live their life and stuff. But there's this rock he walks by that has a bunch of flowers on it, and he sees kids place flowers on it. And the old guy, he's like, at the end of it, he's like, "Oh, why did people put flowers on this rock?" And he's like, "I don't think people even know anymore, except for me." And there was this old guy.
Is this a new movie?
No, it's from like the 90s. It's like a classic.
I wonder if that was inspiration, but yeah, go on.
Because he says no one ever knows, but this traveler came in and was super sick and died, and no one ever knew his name. But they
the
put
traveler.
over his tomb.
That's gotta be direct.
And yeah, so everyone places flowers there, and so then when the guy leaves and the movie ends, he places a flower on the rock, and it's so beautiful. And so then I was watching this, and the girl who brought Ruby was like, "Why do they place flowers?" And she's like, "Nobody knows, nobody remembers." And I was like, "Oh my goodness."
No more spoilers, right? We're good.
No more spoilers. That was
All right,
it.
there we go. We're back. Well, to me, it was actually a callback from the Best 60th Anniversary special. Because the TARDIS, at the start, basically it gets scared and runs away, which is a powerful, narrative tool. But the Doctor has a conversation, because he's stuck. There's no TARDIS. And he has this whole great speech. I'm not going to do it justice, but where he basically is like, I wonder what the TARDIS, what she does when she leaves. Like, what does the TARDIS do? And he kind of describes, he imagines it like lands on some cliff top somewhere. He literally says like a cliff top. And he basically tells the tale of like imagining this whole civilization that like rises and falls around the TARDIS. And like first they don't understand it and they worship it. And then they grow up and try and destroy it, and they grow wise and they try and preserve it. And they build this massive city across it, like it's a monument in the center of the city. And just over like the centuries, as the TARDIS is just like doing its own thing, like the city falls, the planets die, but like she still stays on this cliff top because it's time's meaningless to her. She's the TARDIS. But also she could go back to like the Doctor when the situation's done at like any time. It's like, what does she do, when I'm gone?
Yeah.
And I almost feel like that was also inspiration, where he wrote that scene. He's like, damn, that's a good image. I gotta use that. And so it's just the powerful of like the TARDIS being a living thing. And yes, the lights definitely aren't on in there. Even like the police box. I think you're right. I think it's dead.
Yeah.
But just the image of like, what does she do, without her Doctor on her own time? Because she's an attention whore. I know you. You love the attention. She does. She loves it. She's loving this, but she's also sad, and like, it's just always that kind of like centuries just like sitting there, even though it's kind of meaningless as the TARDIS. There's still like a sadness to that, but it's like a beautiful. I do love it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
This and sort of the eternity of it. I love Grandma Ruby. I love Grandma Ruby in the home. It's such a like old, very, very old like person, but fun and also not, it doesn't feel derogatory or offensive in any way. Just a little like it's almost like you were judging me. It's like, I know we had that when I was young. And
That
just
made
the,
me
like,
feel old. Because that's going to be me. When I'm an old man, I'm going to be telling people, like, I remember when they made the Alexa.
you know, our
like,
baby cousins. Well,
uh-huh.
he just today I found out. I can say him, the today I found out uncle. Because I don't like talking about the family who doesn't do the YouTube. But
Yeah.
he has a Tesla, right? I don't know if I should have mentioned that, but a lot of people have Teslas, you know. And so one of the self-drivings, you know, and when like our mom would take those kids anywhere, they're little, you know, like kindergarten age oldest. They've been younger at the time. They like drop a toy and like, why can you get it? And it's like, oh, I can't. I'm driving. You're like, well, let the car drive. It's like, oh, no, honey, because he's very like up on a lot of that tech, you know.
Yeah.
Today I found out makes a good amount of money, and he can get a lot of the toys. But yeah, it's mom, because our mom's a young kid teacher, very young, and so she'll come with stories a lot about that. I learned I had, you know, the phone thing where like you hold, like I'm doing now, you can't see, but like the thumb and the pinky, you're like on the phone.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And I was like,
She
you
told
know,
me about that.
is that gonna be like roll up the window? I don't remember what they're called, but like no one knows why that's a phone, because like that's not a phone, because they're flat sound. And someone told me this, actually I think it was my wife who also works with kids, was like, no, nowadays kids do it like they're holding a smartphone. They curl their fingers and hold it up to them, and like they've been on calls, those same cousins, where like an uncle was on the phone, but like they couldn't see him, they could only talk because it was like a flip phone or something, and they were like, what is this? Where is he? He's not on the phone. And yeah, it's they didn't quite have, I mean, they did have these lights when we were kids. You know what, they had the clapper, let's be honest. Like you could have made it, but it wasn't great, you know. Like, but yeah, it's, and then the like, I used to be able to make it snow. It's such like a, yes, Grandma, you know, okay. It's like, I remember when Netflix used to come in the mail. That's the energy. That's the line.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, you're just a senile old woman. But it's like, no, it's funny because it's Doctor Who. She could. But like, Netflix did come in the mail. I remember that. Our dad would get Netflix in the mail.
Oh, yeah. All the DVDs.
And I hope Netflix lasts, just so you can say we can do that, and our kids will be like, "What?" Some of the older cousins we got, like they're like kids, they'd be like, "No, Netflix." They'd be like, "What's the mail?" I had people, right?
You got an email?
Our cousins and stuff. Yeah, I told you about that. They did. Like at the start of college,
did that happen?
it was like, "Can you email me this thing?" or like send it. They were like, "Email." They literally compared it to like fax. It's like if I said, can you fax me this? And I was like, email isn't redundant. Like, okay, sure. Maybe before like high school, college, you don't need a lot. You don't really need email that much other than to make accounts. But like, email is still very important. But they were like, it's genuine. If I asked them to like send me on the pager, like, email? You have an email account? Like, well, there's literally no other way for you to give me this, so I don't know why you're judging me. Like, what are you, what are you doing?
Funny. We're old.
God. No, they're just wrong at that. Right?
Oh, right.
Like,
you just made yourself older.
Kid, an email. You work remotely. You surely email a lot of stuff.
Yeah. No, I use email all the time.
It's not redundant. It's more business, but like, you know.
That's so funny.
Even technically the fax machine isn't totally redundant, but like, it's incredibly, it functionally is. It's just those really obscure, like magnetic tape is useful, but only if you're doing long-term storage you never have to access.
Yeah.
Like, and that is like, yeah. Also, Blu-ray's not antiquated. Like, just objectively, you're wrong. It's not. It is the high, like an HD, a 1080p Blu-ray is still the highest quality image you can get, even over 4K streaming, because of weird bitrate stuff. That's about to change, but you still have your 4K Blu-ray.
You got it for now.
And like, there's things Blu-ray can do that streaming can't, which means it's not antiquated. Like, it still has uses. the people think it is.
This is us on the bed right now, and that's chat in the seat.
I used to be able to make it snow. I kind of was expecting a like comment like it never snowed again. It's like, yes, Grandma, climate change did happen.
Yeah.
Thanks for reminding me. You used to have like I was gonna say trees. I was like, that's too far. Then I was gonna say dog. Then I'm like, no, that's too sad. And so I was like,
The budget
ferns.
for Roger's nuclear weapons went to fixing climate change instead. That's what happened.
Yeah, $15 billion. Yeah, like the UK is doing good. I remember a few years ago when they announced the first day in like 300 years, probably 200 years, that not a single ounce of energy was produced by coal. And I was like, yeah, like
That's good.
damn, that's a
Since the invention
by
of
the
coal.
way, I'd like to point out climate change. Yes, it's bad. We should do stuff, but it's also probably not nearly as bad as you think. Like most experts agree that even if we literally do nothing, like we don't change course, we've averted the apocalypse scenario. Like,
Nice.
don't get me wrong, it's still like bad, but it's not the world has literally ended bad.
That's convenient.
The world is like metaphorically, some worlds have ended in a metaphorical sense, like your islands will still flood.
Yeah.
But and that was in the decade where like the world leaders did basically nothing and if arguably actively went against like fixing climate change.
Yeah.
Like that was that decade that we averted the apocalypse. Imagine what we do if we actually try just a little bit. Okay. I think it's time. I've got like half an hour max with you, by the way. One of my surprises.
Yeah.
Here's some things the Reddit has posted and some views, some theories. But I've also got Russell T Davies himself, showrunner and writer, explaining the episode.
Whoa.
Right.
Whoa. Strapping in.
I will set your expectations. The word something does appear a lot in the explanation. It's not like, you'll understand fully, but,
Okay.
so I'd still maintain, I was saying, I think this is like, it won't come back, other than maybe we'll learn something about Ruby's powers and go, oh, that makes sense. But it's like a minor, like we'll learn why it snowed. And we'll go, oh, now I get why it snowed in these two cases or something. Okay, this is a theory I like. Someone complained, then went edit. I've just been through a time loop and watched I didn't get this person's username, I'm sorry. I've just been through a time loop and watched the ending again after reading some other comments. The doc only mentions nuclear war during the first loop, which is easy to miss, and we talked about that. I think the way the ending works is essentially stepping on the Dreamcatcher unleashes, quotes, Mad Jack. And I think Mad Jack is like some random thing. I think he's just a word. A lot of people say he's like the spirit. I think that was just like on the paper, like some sailor dude. I don't know. But we'll call the magic like Mad Jack. Just whatever the sentience behind this is. We'll call him Mad Jack. Unleashes Mad Jack, who influences Roger to use nuclear weapons. Doing so also puts Ruby in a time loop where she is followed by a version of herself from the future. She lives her life until she dies, whereby she then becomes the follower Ruby. The follower Ruby from the loop we follow then warns the next about not stepping on the Dreamcatcher, which is enough to stop the doc from stepping on it. And we kind of know this is the first time because she went from 2 visits to 3 visits, and she explains the other 2. Roger still exists, but he's just a regular old scummy politician. I like that. I like that they release some evil, because they make a point to establish that he's like a proper Welshman. Like, they talk about the app in his name. He's like, I was born, bred in Wales. Like, you can kind of conclude that he might be from this area, and the evil basically chose him as sort of a host to, like, end the world. And then the loop is some sort of magic to kind of counter, be like, no, we do kind of need to stop this. And it wasn't stopping him in the, like, alternate timeline that stops the nukes. It's preventing Mad Jack from being released at all. And I like that. is a theory.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's not so far out. It's kind of pretty grounded.
Okay. Do you want to know what the actual thing is? Because I said I don't think there's anything deeper than the surface. Like a thing happened.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it.
From additional bottle 2299. And this has come up a lot, but this is just the first one I got. So it's all a big metaphor, right? There was part of her that was always at arm's reach and couldn't confront. Mental illness, insecurity, whatever. She finds a way to use it for good, thinking it would stop, but it doesn't, and always stays with her. It's only at the end of her life when she learns to accept that it's a part of her that will always be there that she could have confronted it years ago. Then we see the world where she confronted that part of her years ago and that her life would have continued in a good way. An additional, and that when she tries to share it with people, they get really scared and don't want anything to do with her and run away. There's something, in quotes, wrong with her that she's struggling to face, but when she reaches out to people, it makes them leave and she feels worse for it. Other people have pointed, bigger things, is that this is basically an episode about Ruby's greatest fear, which is abandonment. I will admit to not having really picked up on that on previous episodes, and you're still there, right?
Yeah.
That, you don't sound happy. That, well, Ruby, I think it is, her biggest fear is abandonment. She was abandoned by her biological parents. For some reason, we just fuck her dad. Like, she doesn't seem to exist at all. But she was abandoned by her parents, as a baby. Did they see the opening scene at church where, like, they see that it was, like, looks like a woman? They're like, it was my mom. I know. But, anyway. Yeah, they do that. And everyone abandons her. Like, her there are other ones. Is this one I've got? I think it's the Russell T. Davies explanation. I have the Russell T. Davies that I'll elaborate for this. This is apparently a behind-the-scenes video, I would imagine on YouTube, and my screenshot... Oh, go to website. I was going to say my screenshot is blocking the text.
Before we hear Russell's, okay. I don't agree with that other one.
Well, I'm sorry.
I'm just putting it out there. I'm just let the record show.
Welcome to direct quotes, according to the Redditor. Blubbo84. Don't laugh.
No, I was just...
From Russell T. Davies himself. Something profane has happened with the disturbance of this fairy circle. There's been a lack of respect. The Doctor is normally very respectful of alien life forms and cultures, but now he's just walked through something very powerful and something's gone wrong. I did warn you. But this something is corrected when Ruby has to spend a life of penitence in which she does something good, which brings the whole thing full circle. It forgives them in the end.
I can live with that one.
Really? That one's even less specific.
No, I like that one more, assuming that maybe we learn about something. Like, that makes sense. Like, you screwed with my crap, and now you have to pay for it. Like, this is punishment, and you need to make up for it.
A lot of people are going into the penitence is you have to confront your worst fear of abandonment.
But we haven't we know that Ruby's been abandoned, but we haven't seen her be afraid of that.
I agree. But if you say, let's say Ruby is, like, terrified of being abandoned, right? This is their biggest fear in life.
Uh-huh.
A lot of the things I said put a pin in and, like, we can get to later are kind of explained. Why doesn't Ruby risk reaching out to Cherry or Miss Flood or her other friends? Well, because she's so terrified of losing them, she will choose to lose them rather than risk it. Like, irrationally, almost. Like, it's just such a big terror of being... And she's been abandoned by her mother again. Who we saw Clara. She's, like, literally perfect, you know? She's, like, the perfect mother. And I do think this is definitely an aspect of her character. It's too strong in this episode to me to really say it was like the clinky dink, you know, that's just what it did.
Mm-hmm.
Bit of a dick move, though, that the Doctor broke it, but, you know, it's Ruby that's got to go through it.
Yeah,
the Doctor would have taken too long. You can't cast all the future Doctors.
So right in that, like, Ruby's been such a perfect character to hinge a whole episode on her, like, massive flaw that we've never really seen explored rubs me
Well, if we watch it again, I mean, maybe it does show up more. I mean, she's really big on not letting the baby be abandoned. Like, she will not abandon that baby. And the babies and space
Yeah.
babies, the booger monster, like, she does not abandon anyone. She's
Mhm.
hesitant to leave the doctor on the landmine. She won't toss it. Like, you could say it's been there, maybe very subtly. And to be fair, it's not like in the first episode she has to come out and be like, "Hi, my name is Ruby. My fear is abandonment."
Yeah.
This is arguably the first time it would naturally come up.
Mhm.
So as long as you work it in there, like, you have this, like, it'll make sense. It's a cohesive character, you know.
I'm
I'm surprised you
keep my
really don't
rust.
like that though, but you do like the explanation that something 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 something.
Well, I like it because still to me that leaves room for
Yeah.
a later explanation. Like there's definitely more to it. If it's the fact that there straight up isn't anything and that yeah,
Well,
something did it, but
that's
we'll
my
never
thing.
know what.
Is the reason it's something
Yeah.
something something is because it literally is no deeper than that. You only need to explain it as far as you need for stuff to happen, which is what he
Yeah.
did. And he intentionally, it's like, oh, it's up to interpretation. It could be whoever you want, like whatever you want. I don't like that because that's not
Yeah.
what's the point of solving it if there isn't a solution?
I do like the
I can
concept though.
understand how someone might. I got this with my wife. I had a big conversation about Five Nights at Freddy's, like theorizing. Because I'm like,
Mhm.
I feel like there isn't an answer. There's not like a book. Because you don't know, there's like a big lore, very complicated, stupidly complicated, but
Yeah.
like impenetrably complicated. But there's not like a book that's got all the answers. It's changed a lot. Like I have to imagine that when the guy writes the FNAF stuff, it's only so deep. And I'm like, there isn't at this point a solution because it's definitely changed, you know.
Mhm.
And I basically got the realization as they were talking that it's less solving a puzzle and it's more a constrained creative writing exercise of like, can you write a story that fits the facts as presented?
Mhm.
It's like I can understand the appeal, but to me it's the answer's magic, and that I've solved it because that is the solution. I could go deeper, but why when I just be making stuff up and I've already solved it? Like magic is the answer.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, can you entertain them for a few minutes while I go to the bathroom? Because I think we're actually not going to be able to talk about it.
And
Oh, you know what you can tell them about that I love? You forgot to
yes.
not talk about it. Tell them about what you told me about last time where you went to school, right? Well,
Yeah.
yeah, tell them about that, and I'll go to the bathroom.
Doctor Who, it is existing to the general populace. There have been people at school who um have approached me who I would have never pegged as Doctor Who people, and they're like, "You see that new Who, that newfangled Doctor series?" I'm like, "Yeah, oh heck yeah!" And we've been able to talk about our thoughts about it and digress on it. And I'm trying to remember exactly. I know one of my friends just really liked Space Babies because of the like fart jokes and everything that we hated about it. Um, and then another one of my friends was like very um they felt very similarly to how we have as we've dissected the episodes, and so that was a very interesting parallel through discussion. But yeah, and I've had some like teachers and stuff be like, "Oh, should I give Doctor Who a shot?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure." But it's cool that I'm able to converse with more people than just my brother, which throughout the rest of my life has never been the case. And my brother has been the most avid and continuous supporter of Doctor Who, even through the Dark Ages.
Whoa, whoa!
So the
Someone supported Doctor Who through the Dark Ages.
you, yeah.
Oh, I did. Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
now that we've
Well,
come
no,
out
no.
of
Okay,
it,
no. Let's not go that far. I wouldn't say I supported it, but I
you were
definitely
there.
stuck through it. You know.
Yeah. And now you're reaping the benefits of your continued efforts, and the
That's
light
true.
is
That's
shining
no,
upon
that's
us
true.
again.
The fact that I watched like Flux, there are payoffs. You know, I it was not worth it, but there are payoffs. Right. 10th Doctor thumbnail from Alex is not something we have to talk about.
Mm,
We talked about that. Cool. We
mhm,
definitely don't have time for both. But there are two separate things I've got. They're competing. It's interesting theories of the big bad. And I think we're
mhm.
going to enter the spoiler zone right now. We're going to talk
Ooh.
spoilers. We're going to talk Might talk leaks. We might talk theories. This. What I can say anything I want now, right? You know what? This is the zone. If you want total spoil free, leave now, right? This is the part where I leave the stream. Ruby dies next episode. No, I don't know. If
Ruby died this episode.
She did. She died last episode too, actually. Yeah. So it's actually a safe bet that Ruby's gonna die next episode. She's died in half the episodes. Like, you know, that's so not bad. I've got equal odds, yeah. And the last episode is Empire of Death. You know, just saying.
Yeah.
What is next? Actually, hang on. What is the next episode?
I did like quickly that last episode was sort of the Doctor's episode, and this was sort of Ruby's episode. I just thought that was cool.
Well, for season 1, we need that as well.
Yeah.
I kind of wish maybe they were a bit sooner, but these would have been weird first episodes. Like, I understand.
Yeah.
The first two are much more traditional, and I think that's good. Mm-hmm. Dot and Bubble, not written by Russell T Davies. It is the last time. Wait. It is written by Russell T Davies. I was wrong. It's also not the episode I was thinking of. As far as I know, this one could be set in Wales. This could be a direct continuation. But anyway, I think there's two competing theories. And I want to tell you the one that I heard first. Yeah. Not the one that I'm growing towards. I think they might both be right. It's weird. But we think we might know who the big bad is. Mm-hmm. And what they're like a god, what they're the god of. I assume, since you haven't said anything, you don't mind talking about it.
Yeah, I'm on the edge of my seat here.
So, the conclusion, I think, the one I saw very compelling, is that it is a villain from classic Doctor Who, Fourth Doctor, the one I told you I think we might want to watch. I need to watch it, actually, dang. Is Sutekh from Pyramids of Mars. Do you know Sutekh at all?
No.
He is the Egyptian god of death, if I recall. Actually, let me...
Oh,
Sutekh.
yeah.
Sutekh, god of... Egyptian mythology, Sutekh was the god of the desert, thunder, cunning, wit, trickery, evil, pain, and suffering. Yeah, he's the god of bad times, right? And Doctor Who, I think, is like the god of death. He's actually... The Egyptian gods were like aliens. Don't worry about it. Actually, that's a point. Retcon. It's a little insensitive, you know, you go to the other culture, hey, your religion is aliens. But anyway, brushing past that, Egyptian mythology is based off, like, powerful aliens, and Sutekh's basically like a bringer of death. It's been a while since I've seen Pyramids of Mars, which is a beloved episode, worth pointing out. But it lines up with a few things. First off, God, you know, he's the god. Like, if you're gonna bring an evil one back, he's like one of two you might do. But remember, the finale is called Empire of Death, right?
Yeah.
God of Death, whether it's Sutekh or not, does kind of make sense. I mentioned the figure we see it, like, drop Ruby off is like an old wrinkly hand that would line up with, like, you know, the God of Death might look, you know, like Grandma Ruby over here, but worse. Not to say she looks bad, but, you know, from a health standpoint, they'd look very bad. But... I think the one that really pointed me, I don't have them all in front of me, the one that was like the nail in the coffin, right? So apparently, it was either a leak or the trailer. I don't remember which. One of the future episodes, it sounds like there's a company or something, like an organization or whatever, or maybe it was even like a person, like a CEO, who was called like, it was like Susan Technologies or something like that. And remember what I said before, where we've seen, like, the bogeyman, we've seen all things. If you ever find something that you could make a pun out of, Russell T Davies, Susan Technology, Susan Tech, Sue Tech, it's Sutekh. Like, come on, it's got to be. There were a lot of others. I wonder, can I find it? Doctor Who Sutekh Season 1. Sutekh will be the big bad. Here we go. In fact, I'm gonna post this into the chat. Hello, chat that we've been ignoring. Oh yeah, so in the 60th, the Toymaker and the other gods have been mentioning the one who waits. And Sutekh is a very patient man, we've seen in, like, the classics. The Toymaker was terrified of him. He's like, I will not. Like, he literally played with, like, everyone, but when he saw the one who waits, he ran and hid. Now, Sutekh is canonically, he's trapped in something. He's waiting, he's hiding. He very much could be the one who waits. People mention as well the fantasy elements. I think this was written a month ago, so before any episodes has come out. So that's just justifying the gods. Yeah, there's something about the trailers. I'm not going to read that. Look, I don't want to. We're in the spoiler zone, but I don't want too many. Yeah, the Empire of Death. First off, that's just a classic Doctor Who episode name. Like, City of Death is an episode, I'm just saying. At least, yeah, something in the trailer I won't mention. But it's interesting. I won't mention it, though. It will mean nothing to you. And it's honestly not that big. And we'll talk about it at the time. But there's nothing I'll say now that we won't talk about in that episode. Someone's saying Susan Triad. I'm pretty sure they just got the person's name wrong. But where was... I'm looking for that name. So like, this still doesn't answer like Miss Flood or Susan Twist. Susan Twist. It's almost there, you know. What if Susan Twist is Sutek? You know what? That'd be a twist. I could have sworn there was a pun. You want to talk? Do you want to talk? Any thoughts about this theory as I search for like a?
It's marinating in my head. I can see it.
You know, it's ultimately she's like a recurring character. I guess that's kind of cool. But 10 minutes. Can I get to my other one? Okay, no, I'll do the other one as well. Right? They're competing theories.
I think this other one is the one you were leaning towards.
I'm leaning more towards it the more I think about it.
Okay, interesting.
But also, I think it's Sutek. It's hard, and I'll get in why. I've mentioned before, Russell T Davies did 4 seasons of Doctor Who originally for 9 and 10. He modeled those seasons after the primary villain of each Doctor. The 9th Doctor, the first season 1, it does the Daleks, you know, obviously. The Daleks are the big ones. The season 2, so would be the 2nd Doctor. There's a few you can go there. The Yeti is arguably like the one I would say is most associated, but I don't know if they'd work so much nowadays. They're more niche. And he also fought the Cybermen a lot because, as I said, he defeated the Daleks forever because, you know, they wanted to go make spin-off movies. But so he fought the Cybermen a lot as sort of a Dalek replacement, and they're much more iconic. You need to bring the Cybermen back. So that's kind of the tie there. And they were the big villain. Like they're the final episode. You see him before. We talked before. Season 3 is the 3rd Doctor. The Master is the big bad. That's the obvious one. 3 and the Master. Iconic duo. You've seen that duo. Season 4... I think it was season 4 again? Oh, yeah, season 4. No, let me open season 4, because I think I'm pretty sure I've explained this to you already. But the 4th Doctor's hard, because he had like 7 seasons. Middle, season 4. What's the end? Journey's Last. Oh, yeah, I forgot. I did this last time, too. The 4th Doctor, often touted as one of the greatest Doctor Who stories of all time. I think I've mentioned like 3 or 4 of those this stream. But Genesis of the Daleks introduces Davros, the creator of the Daleks. And he's like the big bad. We reintroduced Davros here. And we kind of follow this structure. And to be fair, 4 didn't really have many new villains that were like standout. I mean, there are some. And like, of course, there are the one-offs, but not really like something like a Dalek or a Cyberman, you know?
Yeah.
4 is kind of where we don't have... Like, all the established people are there by the time of the 4th Doctor. Well, if we continue this, right? I even theorized, I like speculated. Oh shoot, we need our 1s to 10s. But we'll do this quickly. This is his 5th season of Doctor Who, so maybe he'd do a big villain of the 5th Doctor. But let's skip ahead. Here's a leak, guys. You know, it's not very caloric. But also, there's a spoiler coming up. No? You need to register that pun?
What? It's not very meaty?
I said, here's a leak. It's not very caloric. Yep, there we go. You're getting
You suck.
Yeah, there we go. I was like, okay, that one needed a reaction. I mentioned this as well, I think. People are pretty sure the Veil Yard is coming back. I think there's I'll get into it. You won't know. That's the point. That's part of the point. Is I think there might be a leak. There's at least murmurs, but they did like a catch up. You've never seen Doctor Who before. Here's what you need to know. And they did rundowns of like the Doctors and some big stuff like Time Lords, TARDIS. I'm sure. It's not a long video. I think it's like maybe 10 minutes. But they weirdly spend like a minute of this video, which, you know, to cover 60 years, there's a lot of real estate.
Yeah.
Even just to cover like every Doctor in 10 minutes is a lot. They dedicate this to the Valeyard, who only appears in like season 23, one of the 6 Doctor stories. He's basically some sort of weird spin-off regeneration. It's never fully explained. That's like all the Doctor's evil that happens somewhere between his 12th and final regeneration, which is very convenient, because back in the day, that meant 12th and 13th. Nowadays, that means, you can do it whenever, right? Like, whoops. And there are reasons. There are 60th anniversary special reasons. Actually, no, I told you. Remember David Tennant bi-generated?
Yeah.
David Tennant would make a good villain. I mean, he does. Most of the Doctors would. So some people think David Tennant might play the Valeyard, like that Doctor turns bad. That might be one of the resolutions.
That'd be cool.
And that's one of the possible ways you could kind of dead end that Doctor.
Yeah.
So we're still following the Doctor, but we're not abandoning him as well.
Mm-hmm.
It would undermine some things, but the Valeyard, almost certainly not this season. Where's the room? That'd be weird. But he was a 6th Doctor villain, right? And next season is Russell T. Davies, which they filmed already. That is his 6th season, which would be a 6th Doctor villain for the 6th season, which implies this season should be a 5th Doctor villain, right? Mm-hmm. The problem with the 5th Doctor, he has 3 seasons. The middle season is the 20th anniversary, and as a celebration, they basically brought back a lot. Every story has a recurring something from each of the Doctors era, and it has the 5 Doctors, like the big multi-Doctor crossover, with 3 of the actors who played the Doctors. Yep, but that went well. So for the next season, they basically did it again. So he's only got like 1 season of new villains. The 5th Doctor doesn't really have like a new. He has one. It's the Mara, who I also think is vaguely godlike. If you had to bring back a 5th Doctor, it'd be the Mara. But the Mara's really self-contained. You could only do so much. They'd almost have to be like the leader of some ensemble, which I'm realizing is what we're setting up. We've got like all these other gods following something else. I was never a big fan of those stories, but that's like the big new one. I might do a Guardian as well, technically 4th Doctor, but they would work. They're gods. They're a type of gods. You could have the old ones, the Guardians. So I'm leaning more, but Sutek isn't 5.
Towards that one?
Sutek isn't a 5th Doctor. And look,
It
he's
sounds
done
like there's
it for all
more
the others.
there, you know? It sounds like there's more pointing towards...
Well, there's a pattern. Like, you could still have Sutek and, you know, do something else. Or Russell could have said, you know what, 5 doesn't have a lot of stuff. I'm just not going to do 5, you know? But it's suspicious that it's, like, there's a lot pointing to the Valeyard, the 6th Doctor villain being in the 6th season, that there'd be a weird gap in his trend, you know?
Yeah.
Which also means that, I guess after, like, 4 more seasons, he's got to leave. Because at that point, he's at the 9th Doctor, and he's just... Maybe that's the Slovene. You bring the Slovene back.
I like the Valeyard idea more. That sounds cooler.
Well, that's next season, though. That's not this season. It's not going to be...
I have my hopes.
Well, like, just wait. You'll get it. Like, he'd be weird to be the one... Like, why are all the gods following an evil Doctor? That's weird. You know what I mean?
Maybe
and we've set up, but wait, we've set up bioregeneration. You could literally have 15 bioregenerate into the Valeyard and the Doctor, and that's like your opener. You know, that'd be the one time I'm okay with bioregeneration coming back, is to do the Valeyard. Because that's basically how he was described. It's like, okay. We have to do the 1 out of 10. Oh god, what are you? Quick. Hurry, we got 3 minutes.
I think
I can give you what you said any other episode as well if you want. Actually, here it is. You can look. They're down here. Like everyone can look at this.
I'm gonna. Because 9.3 for Boom, I'll stick with a 9 for now.
9.
Yeah, I'll stick with that, but it might change next week.
I haven't really given decimals. I'm thinking 7 or 8, right? And here's what, because I said I didn't really like the start or the end. But the middle's like 10, right? So yeah, you gotta knock points for the ends, the bookend, the start and end. I think it's got to lose at least a little bit because it is a one-off. You can't really watch it again. And that's not inherent, but I think a perfect 10 you should be able to watch again. Like Heaven Sent. Heaven Sent is one that fundamentally changes, but you can watch it as many times as you want. Let me look. I'm kind of... So right now the average is an 8.5. Was this better? That's the problem. Is this better than Devil's Cord? Well, Devil's Cord was much more consistently better, but the peaks of this one were better.
Agreed, I think.
Is this better than Church of Ruby Road? Yes. Yes, this was better than Church. Therefore, it's at least a 7. Well, we knew that, but yeah, that's okay. Is it an 8 point? What would like a 7.9 get us? Divided by 3. Sure, I got a minute plus like 7.9. 7.9. I like 7.9.
Where's that
because
land?
You know what? It would be an 8, but because you can only watch it so many times, it's not an 8, right? That gets us in an 8.3. Meaning this was the second best episode, and you know what? Fair. I think I
can live with that.
I like so. Boom and 73 yards are in that order, the best 2. Very close though. Devil's Cord, very close to this one, but noticeably below Boom. Then there's a gap with Church, but good. And then Space Babies is like barely above the middle, which
yeah, the whole run-up, the whole order right now, I'm good with.
Space Babies barely passed. That's what that's fine. That Space Babies is a mid dud, and we can acknowledge it more now that we've got literally all 3 episodes after Space Babies are at least an 8 on average.
Yeah,
and honestly, this doesn't count. Like ignoring Alex's Boom. Which they're blaming Boom for Ruby's underdevelopment, which I think is unfair. It's fair to say it took away from Boom, but I don't think you can put all that. It's just the episode they realized. For me, it was like Devil's Cord. For them, it was Boom. Other than Alex's 6.9, every other... The lowest ranking is 7.5, which you gave for last episode.
Yeah.
I also noticed I am apparently liking this season more than everyone else. I'm never actually we tied for lowest for Space Babies, but Alex, it was a baby. It was cute. It was camp. That's what I told you. That's what Alex wants. Someone who gave Space Babies a 7 is not going to give Boom a 10. Fair. That's fair. I really got to go though. Cause I got a thing to be at.
Yeah.
I got to eat the rhubarb pie. We harvested more rhubarb. I learned you could make nut milk at home, and I'm looking forward to trying that. Yeah, I know. Our neighbor came over and said they had some spare nut milk. Like, my friend made this. I'm like, you can... And it's... You know how to make nut milk? You need nuts, you need water, and you need, like, a cheesecloth or, like, a nut milk cloth. That's, like, the only special thing. Someone I saw, you could use a towel, but basically a filter. If you don't mind pulpy milk, you don't need that, but,
I learned something new.
I was like, dang, I need to find a nut that grows in Spokane, but not on a tree.
Good luck.
Peanut milk exists, and, like, chocolate peanut milk. My wife is hyped. My wife is hyped for chocolate.
That sounds really good.
It's hard to grow peanuts in Spokane, because you need season extension techniques. Probably not best for us, who have, like, rhubarb... weed basically growing from the old owner. And I'm gonna put some pumpkins in the ground soon.
That'll be good.
Just see what happens. Be like, is this soil actually garbage? Let's put some pumpkins in the soil. All right, I really gotta go though. So I will say